Cascade Mountains. This is S4! Sit back, relax, and keep your eyes to the skies.
Greetings, folks, and welcome to S4, where we talk about the serious issues involving paranormal and current events, coming to you live from the S4 headquarters in the heart of the Cascade Mountains of Washington State, here in our studio in Cape Horn, Concrete, Washington. So tonight we're talking science and the paranormal. What is scientific theory and how does it relate to proving the paranormal? What about Bigfoot, aliens, and even spirits? How does the tech work? Let's find out. So tonight we got... What? What?
Awesome.
Yeah. So tonight we got Joe, our master of pointy sticks and geologist of S4, and Eric Marcum, a preacher. Our scientist of S4.
Quickly before that, do not forget to hit that like button on Spreaker if you don't mind. That would be awesome.
It would be. It would be.
Wow.
Oh, like God. Button? So it's still... Wait. Is it still 2020?
It is still 2020, unfortunately.
Well, it's been raining all week, so I don't know. Is winter coming?
We still got 3 months and a couple days
left. It's supposed to be in the high 70s all next week.
I thought we were hitting the reset. What happened to that?
Well, that's why I'm asking. Did you hit the reset button?
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Well, I'll send it back to Amazon.
Oh.
There's still plenty of time for a rogue asteroid to hit the moon and blow it in half.
Well, nah. Screw the asteroid. I'm waiting for the aliens to show up.
They're already here. They're leaving.
Yeah. They
in
packed
droves.
up. And thanks for all the fish.
Yeah.
Oh, so I've been on a Transformers binge. Are there 4 or 5 Transformers?
Movies?
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of Transformers.
There's a billion of them. If you can include Bumblebee, I think there's 5.
Yeah.
I don't think I have Bumblebee.
6 with Bumblebee.
6 with Bumblebee?
No.
And are we talking all old school, too? Because if you include those
that's
cartoon
right.
movies, then we got like 200 of them.
No, there's...
Well, no, they actually made a motion picture, and I believe Leonard Nimoy was the voice of Optimus Prime back in the
that'd be cool.
80s. Yeah, it wasn't a bad movie, really.
That'd be cool.
I'm secure enough in my manhood to admit that I watched one of the animated series, more recent one.
Right?
So
yeah.
I didn't like the cheesy computer generated, though, like where one of them was a gorilla. I don't know. There was a really cheesy CGI version, but I used to watch the original with my first set of stepkids. That and Voltron. Had to catch Voltron on 3 different channels.
Right.
You could watch an hour and a half of Voltron.
It was all He-Man and Captain Planet, man.
So in the new movies, as I guess you'd say, the original was Transformers, then it went Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, Transformers Dark of the Moon, Transformers Age of Extinction, Transformers The Last Night, and then Bumblebee.
I've seen them all.
Seen them all.
Yeah, Transformers 7, Rise of the Unicron.
Unicron, you guys.
Oh,
that is an actual movie.
Okay.
Now I got no.
Ooh, Mark Wahlberg.
2022, huh? Yeah. So Mark Wahlberg was in. I think it was the fourth one. Fourth or
yeah, it was in the fourth because they had to let go of Shia LaBeouf.
right.
Well, if that's how you say his name, I can't really say his name.
And you know,
Because Shia LaBeouf turned out to be a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did he?
totally. Yeah.
Just a nail.
7 got canceled. What?
Everything got canceled. It's 2020.
I hope not.
All the Star Treks got canceled. Universal said they're not making any more, which
Oh, dude.
that makes sense because
the last one sucked so bad anyway.
Star Wars is taking over, so it's okay.
Oh, no.
No,
Hell.
no.
Ellen's got this, guys.
And
Alan's got
one's
this.
universe is Star Wars better than Star Trek.
Well, you know, it is 2020, so I have been binge watching movies just to get out of my head. And like I asked in the Upriver group, you know, it seems everybody has binge watching Netflix and movies in general and whatnot. And, yeah, so I just had to bring it up. I'm on
Hell,
a
Star
Transformers
Trek
binge
5,
right
they filmed out where I was living in a place called Atlantia. And they had the Planet of Galactic Peace, Nibus 3.
Yep.
That's where I lived. It looked like this desolate hell place. That's where I lived.
Didn't you get a picture of a prop there? Didn't you wander out and find a
part of the scene where the Galileo
shuttle
lands, the shuttlecraft from the Enterprise?
Yeah.
So it landed right behind my house in these sand dunes, and we went out there and screwed around with it. There was no one around, and got a lot of pictures of that.
How did it fly?
It
Little
flew
nose
well,
heavy?
you know.
Okay.
All right. So getting on. First, you have to define what the paranormal is, because anytime you talk scientific theory, you have to figure out what you're analyzing, how you're going to analyze it, and how to scientifically prove it. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, how do we define the paranormal? Anything outside normal scientific ranges, psychological ranges, and I also include sociological ranges as well. Look at urban legends. I mean, urban legends come from usually some form of fact.
Well, if you think about it that way, everything came from an original something. Like, there is no pure thought of something that hasn't come from something that you've seen or something that you've made together.
So, where did Bloody Mary come from?
Did you really just admit to having completely unpure thoughts?
You all guys already know I do.
Does anybody know where Bloody Mary came from?
No.
I know that all the hype and fear of Ouija boards came from The Exorcist, because before that it wasn't considered that big a deal.
No. And
I think Bloody Mary might be one of your urban legends, just like the Thin Man.
If I remember...
No, it came from a story. I'm going to have to look it up.
Yeah, Alice in Wonderland.
It did come from a story that got blown up out of proportion, essentially. So, going off paranormal, how do we prove it scientifically when it's outside scientific realms?
That's where the difficulty comes, and that's one of my pet peeves is you get these people on shows waving tech in the air and saying they're doing scientific research, and that's absolute BS. I mean, you're waving toys in the air, hoping to get lucky.
Exactly. I hate that.
Yeah, I'm doing scientific research. I've got a K2 meter. Well, even in its commercial application, the K2 meter is considered a piece of crap.
Is it?
Yeah, false positives.
Yep.
You can trigger it with, they've been triggered with camera batteries.
Well,
I prefer,
Exactly. As far as the K2 meters go, they're such a wonderful piece of equipment. I don't own one, and I never will.
Well, the reason that they became so popular is if you're going out there to play Ghost Hunter, the tool that gives you a reaction, gets popular. Because, oh, I got all these things. Yeah, well, you got them because it's a piece of crap. But that gets lost in translation.
Every time I watch one of those shows and someone gets a big positive hit on their K2 meter, in my mind, I'm just thinking the guy across the street just opened his garage door.
Yeah. Or they're talking to an old school wireless router. I was on a team in North Carolina, and this moron is sitting there thinking, oh my God, look at this activity, and it's communicating with me. It's like, no, asshole, you're standing under a wireless router.
And I like Dennis's comment. I thought, why are you doing that? Did you get that from the TV crew? And you know what? That's your most common paranormal team is, they watch TV and they go out and buy the exact same toys that they saw on Ghost Adventures. And they think that's going to prove. I think your best, personally, your best tech comes from cameras. But even cameras, you got flare lens, you got pareidolia, you've got
lens flare, and then you get the
water
dust
spots.
motes,
water spots.
Yeah,
I hate dots.
And when you have most people that I know that are serious about their photography put some kind of filter on, whether it's a neutral density, a skylight 1A, a polar. Personally, I use polarizing lens. One, it protects the primary lens.
Bingo.
I've dropped a camera or two in my life, and the filter saved the primary lens.
Well, I just figured out that the camera that we have now does have a lens flare reducer as well. But in order for us to use that in an investigation, I believe we'd have to have that one with the lens flare reducer on and a regular camera.
But you have to check out what that lens flare reducing does. I mean, it
absolutely.
Reduce
what
the
is
flare
it filtering
from
out?
A spirit, if you catch one. You don't know what it does exactly.
Yeah, so
that's why you'd have to take both of them just so that you would get the comparison.
Right. And that's what Cole's saying is that, you take one picture with the lens flare camera, or lens flare reducer camera, and you take another of the exact same with a regular camera, and you compare the two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just taking one camera and going straight from that. No, I've got so many pictures where, and the one I thought was an apparition for the longest, the more you look at it, you can actually see the light coming through the barn window, which does create the image of an apparition. You have to analyze. You don't just go straight off, you don't just go off straight impression and go, oh my God, I got an apparition. No, you know how hard true apparitions are to actually get, and the science behind a spirit showing themselves out as an apparition is damn near impossible.
One of the key tenets of the scientific method is reproducibility. Mm-hmm. And that's where we have this problem in the paranormal. Unless you find a spirit that's willing to work with you, that would be the
okay. Show up over here.
Yeah,
click.
Do it.
Oh,
now,
wait. Stay right there. Oh, you moved.
Your eyes were closed.
Yeah.
Well, you got to be basic. Anything we capture, no matter what gear we're using, is blind luck.
Right.
I mean, you always hear about, if you go here, you'll always see blah, blah, blah. Well, when you go there, you don't see whatever. I mean, there's so much chance involved. Just blind luck. Like when we did our little investigation.
Yeah.
The only thing that we had that was reliable was the tri-field meter and what we were seeing one side of the road to the middle to the, mm-hmm. We could get readings, but what did the readings mean? We still don't know what was causing that. And then when that flurry of activity happened, and my meter was just dancing.
Other than the fact that Izzy got knocked down.
Izzy got knocked down.
Unreproducible.
But we didn't catch it on film.
No.
It just, it was one of those things where things were happening. Unless you have everybody wearing some kind of 360-degree photographic device. Everybody with
which they have.
Well,
right.
I think I was thinking about this really seriously over the last week, and I think, it would cost thousands to outfit a paranormal crew.
Yeah.
Just for the photographic evidence.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because a handheld camera relies on you being pointed in the right direction, having a high enough ASA setting or ISO setting that shows how old school I am. I'm still using ASA.
Yeah, when did they change that?
It was starting to change back in the 90s. I believe they were interchangeable as far back when I got into it back in the mid to early 80s.
I keep looking for the f-stop setting on my camera phone. I can't find it.
Yeah, they're just sort of automatic. We as observers are limited in what we can see unaided. You've got this very narrow band of the electromagnetic spectrum. You're going from 380 nanometers to 700 nanometers. Mm-hmm. That's just, if you spread out from infrared to ultraviolet, the entire known electromagnetic spectrum, that's like a quarter of an inch in the middle. All this other stuff is going on either side. My theory is that because the spirits seem to be low energy, they're going to be toward the infrared side. The low energy side of the electromagnetic spectrum.
I like Dennis's comment. I never see much checking of electrical circuits, pipes, walls for moisture and cracks, temperature, humidity, location of natural and artificial light, etc. And why does everyone have to sit in the dark?
Well, and
in the dark.
Dennis, you say everyone should have GoPros and GoPros and helmets.
Absolutely.
Just so you know, whenever we take Eric anywhere, we make him wear a helmet.
What?
Which Eric?
There's a reason I didn't specify, guys.
and Izzy does bring up the point. So we did screw up with our investigation we did because we all scattered. We were supposed to jump out and go cohesively. But you and I went running this way and...
Well, we had too many things going on at once. The girls were playing with the ghost apps.
Right.
And, God, I wish we'd had that recorded because... Honest to God, people, they were using different types of phones, different ghost hunting apps.
And they were getting the same response.
And they were getting they synced up and were getting the same responses.
Wow.
Now,
in the best of all possible worlds, we'd have had a recorder going there and see if... I've designed an experiment I want to try where... We isolate the ghost app responses to where they can't be picked up on the Zoom H2N. Using a headphone, I bought some splitters and some little digital recorders so that they can record both sides of their conversation.
And see if
all we're going to record or hear on the H2N, which is a little digital recorder device, is their side of the conversation. What Izzy and Kayla are saying is going to be picked up, but not what the ghost app is kicking out. That way, if we pick something up on the H2N, it's from another source.
My issue with those things is the fact that they are literally a computer program, so they are running off an algorithm.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
true.
And it doesn't matter which one you pick. That algorithm is not protected. It is the same algorithm.
But still, with having them sync up, I mean, it's not without outside.
They should.
It's not outside the. No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't be that. if they're different apps, even though the algorithms are similar.
No, not similar. They're the same.
There's got to be...
Because look at the parent companies of the two apps. That's the issue. The parent company's the same. They're just brought on by different companies. They're different apps made by the same companies.
But up until that point, they weren't synced up. I mean, it's probable and it's possible that they would sync up. But they were getting random, and then all of a sudden they synced up. Yes, it could be because the algorithm is the same.
But Izzy also said they were running at different speeds as well.
Yes.
But when you're running a straight algorithm, that's not going to matter. It's the fact that you're both picking up the same radio frequency at the same time.
No, and that's what I think Marcum was saying, which is why we needed the third proof on it too, is because
a control.
This is a possibility that this is syncing up specifically because of an algorithm. So if we get another control in there, and it picks up the same thing as well,
then you got some.
Then you know you have.
But I think
we should have the H2N.
Is there's another form of control we need to add to that experiment?
What's that?
I would say
do them together.
Do them together and have a
do
third
them in two
one
different
off.
buildings.
That's true. Of course, here again, you got reproducibility. And was there something truly going on there? I think in this case there was. If taken by itself, the syncing was not earth-shattering. Like you said, algorithms given the same answer.
Right.
The other activity we were having that night between the tri-field, what we were catching on tri-field meter, what happened to Izzy, other factors involved sort of threw more credence toward. And that there again, it could still be false, experimental bias, or, we want something to happen and we're willing to kind of suspend disbelief and accept it.
Well, we also got that orb. Now, I'm not a believer in orbs, per se. There's too many pictures you look at, and oh my god, I've got an orb! No, it's dust.
It's a dust,
it's
or it's a lens flare,
dust.
Or a bug, or
a bug. Yeah. But you can usually tell the difference between a bug moving and other. Generally speaking,
what bothered me with the orb, in trying to explain it mundanely, is the setting I was using.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it was doing 10 shutters
with a lens
in
lens
10
flare?
seconds, or in less than a second. 10 shutters per second, so 10 photos
10
per second.
Per second.
Yeah, so 10 photos per second.
Okay.
That's the only one that showed up out of the 10.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't do any other ones.
That's a case.
Or if it's dust or something, it should be there the entire time.
Right. Well,
just moving across the camera.
We probably ought to set up a custom camera stabilizer that we can have the camera itself, maybe a GoPro on one side and the FLIR on the other.
Oh, we've got enough cameras now that we can do a lot more.
Yeah.
I want to address PBR real quick. I think people on the other side can use their energy to imprint on an analog magnetic tape, not so much digital. They can actually imprint on both.
They can imprint on both, but I am of the opinion that the white noise inherent in magnetic media, i.e. tapes.
Right. Reel to reel.
Reel to reel. My best EVP ever captured, everybody knows, I've caught my EVP I caught on an old Craig 212.
Yeah.
3-inch
Talk about that
reel to
for
reel.
a second. Talk about that for a second.
Okay. Whole story. I live alone. I was using the bathroom downstairs across from in my old house, my studio. I had a little half bath. I was relieving myself, and this hit the wall in front of me. Now, the only thing on the other side of that wall is the staircase leading up. Okay, I've never heard that thump again, or, never before, never since. So, and the plumbing pipes don't run in that wall. It's just basically a partition.
Mm-hmm.
There's no plumbing involved. It's just there. Okay. I had just restored that tape player, and I thought, well, I'd had other things happen in this house, as Eric's aware.
Mm-hmm.
So I set my little recorder up in my little bedroom down there, and you can hear me doing the usual spiel. If you got something to say, blah blah blah. You hear me walk out of the room, shut the door. Another door shut behind me. I shut the door to the studio, and there was a very thick wall. There was a closet and where the air handler for the house was, between the studio and the bedroom. I guess short way of saying that is very thick wall. You're not getting noise from the studio into the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably about 45 seconds into that tape, you hear this breathy, hey. It's either hey or hi, and put it all together.
Right.
Now, is that valid scientific evidence? No.
You can't replicate it.
I can't replicate it.
Right.
I can't. Here again, it was just blind luck and more or less a known haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the people I was buying it from knew it was haunted.
So, a question for you. Would reel-to-reel, or like PBR is saying, old school tape deck, which of those two, or do you see them both as being probably...
I see magnetic media as the same.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I just bought us a little GE cassette, and I got some blank cassettes. I think magnetic media, period.
It can't be manipulated like digital can.
I kind of like the old school, like you said, the old tape audio recorders. I love those better than the digital, and also for the same reason, I like an old school camera that has film in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than a digital camera.
Absolutely, you can't manipulate.
You can, but you can manipulate it, but it's so much easier with analog, with old film. You could the fingerprints of manipulation are easier to detect than with digital.
Well, PBR's got a really good point here.
What's that?
So there's lots of older people on the other side, and maybe they can relate to old school magnetic tape decks.
Right.
Hey,
Younger ones might be able to relate to digital.
Exactly.
Maybe they can affect digital. And the younger they are, like if they're a teenager who has passed away, God forbid, but it does happen, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But maybe they can only imprint on digital because, hell, in life they can't even figure out how to work a tape.
Well, I think that some of it is recognizing.
One of your investigations, you should put out an old Morse code key. See if something starts tapping
Not
it.
a bad idea.
Okay, I'm taking notes.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah.
I wonder if we could figure. Yeah, that might be a decent idea.
Do you?
I do. I've got one too. One of the things I think the reason EVP capture happens more reliably on the magnetic media is there's a white noise, there's a hiss to tapes. I mean, tape hiss was such a issue that they made tape dehissers to add to your reel-to-reel. I have 2 of them that kind of filters out that hiss. So there's that inherent quality to the magnetic tape.
It says go way old school and use a board. Literally anyone can handle that.
And I can actually... Okay, so Dennis is asking why ghosts seem to all speak English. I can tell you they don't.
No,
there's
there are a lot of
EVPs.
them that will come through in Spanish or German or
Native American.
Whatever their actual language.
There's been many,
Japanese. There was that case up in Vancouver, British Columbia, where it had been a Chinese work camp.
Yeah.
However,
the Chinese that built the railroad.
Have a point, though, is that on most of the TV shows and different things that you watch, they are typically coming through in English.
Right. That's because it's entertainment.
Right.
But in a real situation...
I have seen a few of them where they were down in South America doing a ghost hunt, and they had something on the tape, and they said, I don't know what this says, and then they have someone there that speaks Spanish on the crew, says, they're saying, get out of my house in Spanish.
Right. Yeah, it happens, but 9 out of 10 times on TV shows, they all speak English.
Well, aren't most of the TV shows filmed in countries where people speak English?
Yes and no, but I mean, even in some of, so you go on Facebook and some of the other groups, they do catch them speaking other languages.
Yeah.
So it's not always in English. It's not always in English.
I want to. J-Ron says digital recording has no soul. You know what? That is an old school point of view. The idea of that an old tape recording would have soul, but a digital recording wouldn't. That's just your idea of something that you were used to and is no longer there.
Right.
A digital recording can still have soul. It's the fact of how much work someone puts into something, how much someone actually puts into that item. You get a good recorder that someone really worked hard to design.
Right.
That item would still have soul. Their soul is in it.
Yeah.
Well, I think with digital, it's on-off. That's why you have the oversampling and the bit rate, because with analog recording, you got everything that was, within the range of the microphone and the recorder. It wasn't discrete data packages. It was this long, like a sine wave. Digital is more like a square wave. And I think you get a natively warmer recording with tape, because you're not missing anything in between the bit packages.
So since for the first hour we're primarily focused on EVP and sound now, how would we go about getting Bigfoot noise caught on
here again
on recording?
The Bigfoot noises that I hear on all the shows and a lot of places like Sasquatch Chronicles, people send in things. Some of those, they're really distant, and I think there's some of the best evidence. You hear something screaming out in the woods, and you go, well, that's not a wolf, that's not a dog, that's not the brakes on a freight train 20 miles away. You can hear the tones, and you can throw it up on your fancy monitors and look at the wavelengths of all. And I think the digital on the Bigfoot, or not the digital, but the voice prints, are some of the greatest things out there. Although some of them I'm a little leery of. I think it's there's one. I'm still on the fence on the Sierra sounds that they have, and it's where the Bigfoot is jabbering away, and it almost sounds like samurai talk. The problem is,
I've heard
whatever
that
it is. I mean, you hear a stream in the background, and there's some birds over there. You hear the nature sounds, and then whatever's making the noise sounds like it's about 3 feet from the microphone, and it never moves away. It just keeps talking and jabbering and talking and jabbering. It's like, how did they get it to sit right there and talk into a microphone? And that's just a huge red flag for me.
Well, it should be so I've been on camera and had Bigfoot knocks in the background, but my audio didn't pick up the knocks at all.
Oh yeah.
And I guess that's more my question. What kind of a microphone? And we've talked about this before, but not on the show.
Key.
We need to figure out a.
You got to be pointing a parabolic dish microphone or a unidirectional.
I was just going to say the parabolic is the way to go.
Parabolic, and there was an old school trick we used back years and years ago where you take a bunch of soda straws and make you wrap them around pointing in one direction.
But with parabolic, do you have to know exactly where that knock is going to come from and have that microphone pointed directly at that point? Because, I mean, you don't always know where the knocks are going to come from. Or is a parabolic widespread enough to catch, a larger area?
Well,
the parabolic will pick up really good where you're pointing it at, but it'll also pick it off to the side.
Okay.
If you're not
it acts like a
me and my brother were screwing around out in the garage one day, and we had this old speaker cabinet. It had a 15-inch speaker in it, and we screwed around with it a little bit here and there, and we turned it into a microphone and set it out in the driveway and closed the garage door. This is when we're living down in the city in Ventura. And you could hear everything going on in that neighborhood. We could hear neighbors arguing with each other 5, 6 houses away. It was amazing. It was just an old speaker cabinet.
Huh. Are you looking at Bigfoot microphone?
Yeah. Because I want to know what the heck he's talking about.
No, it's like a unidirectional, like I was saying. You can take plastic soda straws or paper, and you can turn a microphone into a unidirectional microphone because the straw is active.
It makes like a cone effect.
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
We don't have plastic straws in California anymore.
There is actually a...
See, it was so frustrating because I was so excited because I thought, hell yeah, we've got Bigfoot knocks on camera. I took it home, and again, nothing. It's so frustrating. And from the outsider's point of view, even if they heard the knocks, it's real easy. Oh yeah, you just had somebody down in the woods that knocked on the trees, and it's not evidence. It's evidence to me because I was there, but it wouldn't be the evidence needed for the outsider. It's going to go, oh yeah, somebody was down in the woods. And,
the hunt finding Bigfoot. They've been knocking on trees for 15 years now. So everybody in the woods goes out there is knocking on the woods. So you'd never do know. That's why that evidence is always a little odd. But I was sitting out here one night, and it sounded like someone took a railroad tie and broke it across a huge pine tree. It was the biggest crack I've ever heard in my life. I was like, holy smokes, I got my recorder out and I had it going. Of course, there's nothing after that. Mm-hmm. You always hear the initial one, and then you get the recorder going, and then nothing.
Well, I think one of the big things, and this is probably letting the cat out of the bag, but real Bigfoot knock has structure to it. It's not just some random TV guy banging on a tree. And that's what they always did. What? They just hit the tree, and it's very difficult to duplicate.
Yes and no, because so what you heard did have structure. And I heard it too. But I've also heard the random tree knocks that don't have structure. That I know was nothing else but Bigfoot because there was nobody, and I know for a fact there's nobody else up in the woods when I was hunting. Because there's only one way in, one way out. There was no other, it's the mountain behind my house. I know there's nobody up there. And that was just a random knock, knock, knock. Same thing with when I was with Steve and we were on Higgins Pass area.
I wish I could find it. One of the coolest sounds I ever heard captured. There was the late Philip Spencer had a book, The Mystery of Panther Rock, and there was a farmer, and the guy wanted to kind of keep his identity. He didn't want people tramping he didn't want any kind of publicity fall over. Anyhow, this guy was sitting on his front porch, and he captured this ungodly howl coming out of the woods. I would love to find that.
I'd like to capture that.
Yeah, and I mean it makes the hair on the back of your head stand up, and it actually he had these two farm dogs, and like Philip Spencer was saying, these things they're farm dogs, they're guard dogs, they're not afraid of much. They were big dogs, and it shut them right down. Mm-hmm. So my dad's that's just an old coonhound. I thought, if it was a coonhound, it would have been another dog on their territory, and off they'd have gone. That is not what happened. But yeah, it was a very, I can't, I've got it on a little MP3 player that I probably got lost in the move, but it's one of the most eerie, chilling sounds I've ever heard captured in a Bigfoot style.
Well, they sound kind of primate-ish, don't they?
Well,
Well,
yeah, I mean, well, we are primates,
right?
I mean, it just seems that the timbre of the Bigfoot howls that to me sound legitimate. They're coming out of a big chest,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a big lung cavity. They're resonating through a larger skull. That there's just, to me, there's this. I'm not sure how to define the quality, but there's a timbre to it that you just don't get when a normal sized human being yells in the woods.
Absolutely not. But so I'm thinking. So when I say primate, could it be a gorilla?
No.
Okay.
They don't make that kind of. They don't make the kind of howls.
We don't have gorillas here anyway, but I'm trying to, the skeptics going to say, it's a monkey. No, I don't think so.
That might play down in Florida, where they had that primate research center and some of their specimens escaped.
Okay.
I mean,
not here though.
Not up here. I don't think the climate would allow like a mountain gorilla,
right,
to survive very long. Even if it was an escaped.
Well, I would say it's too cold.
Not enough of the kind of food they need.
Right.
They are omnivores, but they do.
The thing about the Bigfoot sounds everyone's talking about, and everyone's talking about the howls, and that's what everyone keys on.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard them. I think you guys have heard them too. And it's one of those things when you hear it live, the hair stands up the back of your neck, and you know that's not a dog or a coyote or something like that. But they make other noises. They do make other noises.
So,
I've got two examples right up here. I was sitting out here, right where I am right now, looking at the woods. It's night. I hear a hoot, like an owl, off to my right. And I'm thinking, damn, that's a big owl.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hear another hoot straight out in front of me. And then there's one way off to the left. It's further out. And there was like 5 of them going back and forth, hooting at each other. Well, these owls had to have been 800 pounds. I mean, they had the sound down, but these things were huge.
Harry Potter.
And they moved together in a group. You can hear them moving. You can hear them hooting at each other. They're kind of like letting each other know, I'm over here. We're still going this way. It's what I figured. And I just sat here and listened to this for about 10 minutes until they moved off into the distance. And I know they weren't owls. But to the average person, they go, oh, that was a hoot. I could have recorded it and people say, well, that's a hoot. No, when you're standing here and you can hear them vibrating.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely something huge.
Well, I think one of the things that Bigfoot is capable of, because of its size and its anatomy, what we assume to be its size and anatomy anyway, I think they can use infrasound.
Oh, yeah.
Like alligator, there's different elephants.
Lions use it, tigers use it.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a really weird question here, but okay, so we all kind of agree that Bigfoot kind of doesn't show up on a lot of electronic devices and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what if you were to take like an old school phonograph out there? Would you?
So like 35mm camera or a Polaroid?
I'm seeing the wrong thing here.
You're talking phonograph that recorder.
Recording.
Oh, recording
like
device.
One of the old
Okay.
school,
the old school where you actually...
Yes, where
wax recorder.
It's a wax recorder. Okay, so if you were to take it into an area where like Bigfoot were prominent or you'd heard them before, and do you think that it would record onto that wax?
If it was close enough, because the way those work, the needle vibrated.
Mm-hmm.
You had this huge, like, gramophone horn that was, basically a reverse megaphone. Yeah,
so, you have everything.
But you had to.
I got a bunch of
you had to be fairly
cylinders.
close.
Huh?
You had to
I'd
be
love
very
to have
close.
one of those. If it was close enough to make the needle vibrate into the wax, yeah, I think you
I
could
don't
do
think
it.
you have a hope of that, though.
Yeah,
I'm curious
might not
too.
be able to be.
So,
Well, if you see how those recordings were made, there's a picture of Enrico Caruso in front of this thing is like a 10-foot funnel for sound.
Mm-hmm.
This huge horn, and he's right in it. I mean, he's not standing 10 feet away. He's right in it. That tells you the amount of sound pressure required to get that needle to vibrate and record the...
You got a 10-foot horn out in the woods. You think Bigfoot's going to say anything? Like, he is the best hide-and-seek champion we've ever had.
It depends on how far out he is.
Okay, so if we were to take...
I don't think he's going to make a sound. If he can see it, he ain't gonna talk.
The idea of a phonograph and make it on a larger scale using the equipment that you were talking about, the
satellite dishes for the UFO tracking?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then maybe even a metabolic...
Wait. Turn a satellite dish into a parabolic mic? Wow.
I looked into that, and the problem with that is, one, they're off-axis, and the dish itself does not lend itself to doing sound. They're designed to create, to
push.
They're designed to pick up like a 5-volt microwave, a very small voltage microwave. I thought about doing that. I've read about 15 articles, and they all say that the satellite dish being used as a parabolic microphone is problematic at best.
Okay.
Now, you could possibly do something, treat the inside of the dish in some kind of way that would allow it to be more sound capable. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the parabolic microphones, they're like a big plexiglass. They're made to resonate with sound.
Right. Okay.
So that's kind of why I abandoned that is because just every article I read said it didn't work well because the metal that the dish is made out of just doesn't react with sound well enough.
So I guess what I was saying though is like if you were to take the old phonograph recorder and you were to make the piece, I can't even think right now, the
horn.
Sound horn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you were to make that out of a plexiglass form, basically making it into a parabolic mic.
Well, it's not really a parabolic mic
Well,
in that it's
but it would collect sound better.
Yeah, a sound collector. One, I think the portability aspect of being able to get the power you need, the setup. I think it would be very problematic to do that as a not impossible, but problematic in the extreme to make it portable for field use.
Right. I was just trying to think of a way that would be like non-digital, but still a recorded version of it.
Well, you can hook a parabolic microphone. You can hook a microphone into anything if the outputs are the right. You can convert it to where it would plug into an old school tape recorder, if you will. I think the microphone is the key issue here, not so much the recording media. I think as long as you've got a microphone that's sensitive enough and can pick up the sound pressure and amplify it in such a way that it can be recorded. I mean, some of these people that caught these Bigfoot noises were using the internal mic that is part of the tape deck without even a separate microphone.
Which I honestly have a hard time with that one. If they could pick it up with just a standard microphone on a tape deck, how come I couldn't pick it up with a video recorder?
Maybe they didn't want you to. I think they're smarter than
that.
Like,
I'm not sure on the video recorder.
I think there's too much fakery going on.
Well, I think with the video recorder.
Well, let's talk
the
about
sound
that for a
level,
second.
the recording level on a.
Who's that photo done by?
Huh?
Who's that video done by?
Which one?
Proctor Gimlin.
Oh yeah, the okay. So the Gimlin, Patterson Gimlin film.
Patterson Gimlin. Someone took it, and they enhanced the video with 4K resolution.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yep.
And that does not look like a dude in a suit. For one,
I think the best
those are some big man boobs. If that's a dude in a suit, those are some big man boobs. Yeah.
Okay. So, most snowsuits that you would wear for extreme cold are shaped that way.
I don't.
They do have a larger area in the upper chest. And the back part, where it looks, really his ass just looks huge. For a reverse fanny pack for fishing could be used to excavate that.
No.
Hey guys, you can say no all you want, but I'm sorry, I don't believe in that one. I don't think they caught a photo or a video of them.
I do.
Because then they're the only ones in how long? Like, really?
A valid one.
Well, I mean, there was a WT, whatever, the camera that picked up Bigfoot, supposedly. The traffic cam.
Yeah,
well, there's some very good still photographs of Bigfoot. There's one, and I'm going to look it up real quick. But, you know, the person came up over this embankment and looked down, and there was Bigfoot standing there looking up at them. Like, and it's sort of a surprise.
I think you have to catch them surprised to get evidence. I honestly do.
Well, that's why I think Patterson Gimlin actually did catch him by surprise, because it was in an area that wasn't accessible to any vehicles, because right before that there'd been a flood and the bridge getting into that area was wiped out. It was gone. And they came in on horses. Mm-hmm. A horse is just another animal, just like a deer or anything else.
So let's talk about that for a second, though. Don't you think a Bigfoot's going to smell a horse?
Exactly.
Yeah, but there's wild horses in the area. I mean, it smelled the horse.
Horses didn't bother it. I think it masked their smell. I don't think they were jabbing her way, talking, you know.
And it's possible. I won't say it's not.
I still have a hard time with that one.
It's the only obvious video.
The only one that isn't like super blurred or has some kind of a background, something.
There's a film footage of a kind of like an albino looking Bigfoot that's pretty convincing too.
The Yeti one?
No, this is you only see it on the camera briefly, because by the time it figures it's being seen, and it ducks out of the frame.
Oh, I've seen that.
Kind of a white face.
It's in pitch black, and it thinks I'm fine here. I'm just looking around a tree. Oh, it gets caught on camera, and boom, it's gone.
Yes.
So you have to look at the technology they had, because that video was taken in the 60s, correct?
I believe it was 8mm. It was a Kodak 8mm camera,
right.
if I remember right.
So we know that digital today's technology is manipulatable. You can't manipulate an 8mm. A human can, yes, after the fact, obviously. But when you're filming with an 8mm, it's not manipulatable.
It absolutely is. Otherwise, we wouldn't have movies like Star Wars.
Yeah, but these were two old rodeo cowboys. They weren't working for Hollywood, where they had the ability to do all that manipulation.
And they were broke. Which is one of the criticisms.
A jar of Vaseline is $4.
So that's the thing, though. That would show motive. Not saying that was a motive, but that would show motive. If they're broke, they know they're going to make money off a Bigfoot video. Just like originally when they were investigating Travis Walton, the naysayers with the whole fire in the sky Travis Walton case was the fact that they were about to lose their logging contract. And all of a sudden Travis Walton disappears. That showed the skeptics.
Oh, come on, man. Let me see. We're about to lose our logging contract. I know. Let's make up a story about being taken by a UFO. That'll make us rich. Come on.
No,
man.
But that's what the naysayers were saying. That's what the skeptics were trying to imply.
Well, of course, there's a couple of them here saying, "Oh, it's money. They made money on it." Well,
Not really.
Actually, no, they didn't.
But, I tried to make money on it, too, whether it was real or not.
Right. But, you got the skeptics.
The skeptics are not going to be... You're not going to shut the skeptics down until you have a physical specimen.
No, absolutely not.
And then you got the corruption of the scientific mainstream. I believe even if you found a Bigfoot corpse, brought it back, and turned it over to University of Washington, I don't even think Jeff Meldrum could keep it from being hushed up.
No.
If you gave it to him and said, "Figure out what this is."
Yeah.
That's a PhD anthropologist.
Pocatello, Idaho, somewhere.
Yeah, I think. Well, actually, somebody said they tried to get a hold of him. They couldn't get a hold of him, so it's possible he's out.
Jeff Meldrum, he's from the University of Idaho.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure specifically whether it's Pocatello or Boise or whatnot. But yeah, he works in the University of Idaho.
That's a good question. If you came across, like, say you're driving down a logging road and you hit one, killed it, threw it in the back of your truck, what would you do with it?
Straight up Harry and the Hendersons, man. You would come to my house.
Yeah.
I think
life and you get to strangle you.
I think the first thing to do would be alert some media, get enough cameras and enough reporters out there, drive to the center of town so everybody could see it. Not try to hide it away and make money on it. Because
right.
all these so-called Bigfoot people that, like the one that had the fake head that supposedly been in the freezer 20 years.
The alien one.
That was such an obvious fake. But, it's a matter of getting a bunch of people to see it while it's there.
Yeah.
Getting it all over. Get it in a situation where don't try and think, I'm rich now. But just get it out there, get a bunch of people to see it, a bunch of press coverage, and then turn it over to a responsible forensic lab to have it analyzed.
Okay, and on that, we'll get to that. But it's time for our first break.
We will be right back.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
Break. You're going down.
And welcome back to S4. Tonight we're talking all things science and the paranormal. And we were just talking about the Patterson-Gimlin film. So I have a question, and we'll get to you. We'll get to your question in here in a second, Joe. But I want to ask: it's 2020, so Patterson-Gimlin are moving on horseback in unseen territory. They don't have a Super 8. They have modern day technology. Do you think the same film would have been captured with today's technology?
I think it might have been better because, like every camera lens I own, other than the mirror lens, which is for a specific thing I want to do here, has image stabilization built into the lens. There's a little switch on it. You turn it over to IS, and it's stabilized. It gives you a few f-stops leeway.
Now, are we talking it's the same time period, same everything going on, they just have better technology?
Okay, we can go with that.
Okay, because if it was like today in 2020, I don't think they would have caught anything.
Well, I don't.
Maybe not. But I mean, so going back to 1968, if they would have had today's technology back then, do you think they would have caught the same image?
Yes, I think it would have been clear. It would have been image stabilized. So you wouldn't have had to do all the post production that's been done on it since then.
But maybe going by our own personal theories that he's interdimensional, and with digital being manipulatable, do you think they would have caught him?
To be perfectly honest, I still do, because I don't think that he was expecting them to be there. I think the thing with Bigfoot is if he expects you to be there, he can manipulate whatever he wants. But if you were to sneak up behind him and somehow get the drop on him, he's not going to...
One of the things about the Patterson-Gimlin film...
They got the drop on him because they were riding horses. Bigfoot knew what horses was. He smelled them, he heard them, but he didn't worry about them. He didn't know there were going to be humans on the back of those horses.
So, to me, when he looks back, he doesn't look shocked. He doesn't look surprised. I don't see a look of shock.
Well, you're trying to attribute human emotions to a creature that's not necessarily human. It's obviously not comfortable in their presence because it's making a beeline.
But it doesn't run.
It might have pulled one of those famous "holy crap" when it looked at him, but they didn't have the film on him. They didn't have the camera running at that point. They didn't come around the corner with the camera running. They turned the camera on after they already saw it, and they all knew each other was there.
I think that's one of the things that the technology they had available. That was basically a wind-up camera.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't have to hit a power button, wait for it to boot up, wait for it to, it was as soon as he pulled the trigger,
right.
He was filming because it was a mechanical...
I used to have one of those.
Okay, yeah. And I'm just going to throw some weirdness.
I think that camera that they were using actually had 3 lenses on it.
Yeah, that was...
like where you could turn the whole thing and get a better lens.
Yes.
I don't know what model of camera they were using, but it seems to me that's in the back of my mind that that's what they had.
Okay, so, and I'm going to throw something else out into that too, is maybe the reason that Bigfoot doesn't let us catch him on camera now is because he knows about the existence of cameras, where back then...
He did.
It was somebody pointing something at him, and he's like, what the hell is that, a new kind of gun or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Now he's like, oh, hey, it's a camera, I'm going to block him out, I'm not going to let him take my picture, whatever.
Now, the other thing I want to bring up, too, is a lot of people theorize, and I hate the term pareidolia, but if you look at some of the theories is that he was trying to direct them, or she was trying to direct them away from her baby. Have you seen the image behind the rock?
Yep.
Do you think that's a child?
It's possible because the actions weren't aggressive, go away. It was like, okay, don't look over there, look at me, I'm going to walk this way. And they're not going to pay attention to something. Because there are other animals in the animal kingdom that will do that.
Oh, absolutely. Bears do that.
Yeah, they're trying to draw the attention away from their kids.
Well, no, I won't say bears do that. Bears attack. But
I don't know about bears.
Bears
are going to stay near cubs.
No, bears attack. They don't try to take you away. They come after you.
Yeah.
But no, there are animals that do try to direct you away.
You know, like killdeer, the bird, a killdeer.
Yeah.
They'll sit there and act like they've got a broken wing and make all kind of racket to pull you away from the nest.
It would have been a lot cooler for them if he would have played possum, though. I mean, then they could have totally got some good pictures.
And you know, I haven't looked at that case in a couple of years, so I can't remember all the details. But
it was a 16 millimeter.
I do remember looking, you know, analyzing the picture of what they thought was a child Bigfoot, and I don't know. In my opinion, it's a stretch. That's what everyone calls. That's what everyone calls pareidolia. Oh yeah, look at this picture. It's pareidolia, and you know, again, that's why I hate using that word, because you got too many groups out there that you could be looking right at an apparition and it's plain as day, but it's pareidolia. No, it's not. Not everything's pareidolia. That case, though, you know, if it was a child Bigfoot, then yes, I can see where this mama Bigfoot is trying to direct them away. I could see that.
I think in the same documentary where they showed maybe something behind the rock, they also show something that might be behind it up in the woods.
I haven't heard of that one.
The thing with the Bigfoot, and this is just my opinion, I could be completely wrong, I don't think they're solitary at all. I think they travel in family groups.
Oh, I know that.
There's a dad Bigfoot and a brother and an uncle and a couple of mamas and some babies.
I'm going to sound cocky
so
here,
if you see one, there's probably 3 or 4 you don't see.
No, there's families up here, and I know that because of our original Tyler, who was our original Bigfoot investigator for FMP, interacted with the families up here, and they're up in the Baker area, and they migrate.
That's why I would never shoot one.
No, they migrate though,
because it's just going to piss off all the other ones.
Yeah, you're not going to have enough bullets.
But do they?
You're not going to get out of that valley.
When you say they migrate,
mm-hmm.
You also are of the opinion that they are interdimensional creatures.
I'm still on the fence about that. I've heard a lot of stories about it, with the disappearing footprints, and they just disappear. And people see them, and there's a flash of light. I really don't know what to do with that. I'm not saying it's bullshit, but I'm saying it's kind of a stretch for me.
I do think they're interdimensional when they need to be.
So this is their main dimension.
I don't know. Does anybody know? I mean,
see, and that's the thing.
Nobody knows.
So, like,
as far as the camouflage thing goes, that one I'm a little closer on than the interdimensional, because we have animals out there just like the octopus. It can change the way it looks, its shape, its color almost instantly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not out there in Woo Land to think that some animal might have the ability to blend in.
To shift.
Well,
yes.
Thinking of it that way, we also have animals that glide. Is it a possibility that he just jumps and glides?
You would hear it.
Maybe they have wings, we just haven't seen them.
Whoa.
I mean, like, you're sitting there thinking about like a flying squirrel, it has just little flaps that come out when it... So if it were to be able to jump high enough...
I would think you'd be able to hear that, though.
Yeah, probably.
If you look at the mammals that can glide, you're looking at a winged, a flight surface to body mass index that I think if Bigfoot could fly, the wings would look like a drape, like theater drape. So I'm not on that one.
You would hear a glide
if they're
and a crash.
Interdimensional, maybe they have jetpacks. Come on. If you want to go woo, let's go woo.
No.
Come on.
But what I'm saying is, okay, so if they are interdimensional creatures, and if we're going to sit here and say that spirits can manipulate tape, how do we know Bigfoot can't?
Mm-hmm.
and hasn't been able to.
Spirits manipulate tape. What do you mean?
So,
well, if they can imprint their voice on a voice recorder without you hearing it, that means they're able to do something. Maybe it's part of the electromagnetic spectrum that they're able to, like Eric said, maybe the low end. They can. I don't know what the spirits are. I'm baffled. I like all the evidence. I like seeing everything, but I don't have a clue what's going on there.
I just think the white noise, the tape hiss, and the white noise that's inherent with those tapes
acts as white noise.
Well, gives the spirit somehow that interacts or makes it easier for the spirits to communicate when they feel like it. Then again, if you've got a, there's been plenty of EVPs caught on digital. I just think the capture rate with analog magnetic media is a little better. I prefer.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So Dennis says if those special ops guys can camel themselves with bush and grass, so why not Bigfoot? Well, we know Bigfoot does that all the time. We've seen too many pictures where you can actually, you can kind of see a face in bush and grass, and that's mundane. There's lots of animals that, they don't grab bush and grass and camouflage themselves. No, but I can see Bigfoot.
I can see that.
I can see Bigfoot doing that.
There's plenty of examples down south, like Louisiana or Florida with the skunk apes or the swamp apes. People see them and they say they're covered in moss.
Yeah.
We can see that they had the dark fur, but they also had that Spanish moss all over them. Who knows,
Well, one of the things, there's precedent for that because the tree sloth actually has algae in its coat. Because they live in a damp and, the hair will be stained with algae, and algae will be growing on the body of the sloth along with the hair, or in the hair.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can see that. I mean, if you live in a swamp and you're in it 24 hours a day, you'd have shit all over you too.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna figure out what works in your environment. So in the case of the swamp ape, they live in swamp. They live in marshy areas. They're going to adapt to what works for them for camouflage. Here, they have all kinds of bushes and trees and.
Oh, dude, they could roll up into a little ball and look like a stump. I mean,
well, with your own activity at your house, it's
800 pounds. It's 800 pounds.
That's
of
why
fur.
I want FLIR.
Got one. Well, I think the hair acts as much as a protection as anything, because where you had the one run through your blackberry thicket, that blackberry thicket could stop a frickin' tank.
Yeah.
Something on two legs that could jump through that and not get shredded.
Oh,
the hair has to be extremely...
And that was a wide trail. That wasn't a cougar. That wasn't a bear. A bear's not going to go on two legs through about 20 feet of blackberries.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
That blackberry thicket along that road is... No human is going to...
No, that was next to the house. That's a wider span than what's by the road.
Okay. So my point is, a human being...
I saw one on my property one day. They got spooked by something, maybe a vehicle down the hill, and I heard it crashing up through the brush. I knew it was coming, and I walked outside and looked, and it came out of the brush and ran head first into a pine tree.
A bear?
Hell of an impact. And it just got up, shook it off, and kept running. So if they want to go through blackberries, fine. Yeah, they will, but not on 2 feet.
No, and this was a creature that was actually on 2 feet. My father-in-law saw it.
Yeah.
Said it was blackish, brownish, very large creature. Grabbed our rooster and ran back down the same trail. And I kind of walked down that trail, found the feathers, found the. But again, there was no. I wasn't even thinking Bigfoot, honestly. So I didn't look for tracks. I could have found tracks probably if I would have looked for them.
Has there ever been a sighting of a red-headed Bigfoot? Like a red fur?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
They go from brown to black to red to, there's been blonde and even white ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, the white one. We were talking about that video. They captured that white face one.
Where was that one at?
I believe that was in Washington, wasn't it?
Was it?
I was thinking it was
Or it could
somewhere
have been Ohio. I'm not sure.
I think it was Ohio or Pennsylvania. Let me look that up real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, that one, it's almost like, okay, I'm here in the dark, I'm in the woods, and I'm watching this idiot walk around in a field, because the guy was in a field maybe 30 feet from the edge of the woods, and he was panning his camera across and just caught it. And he stopped, and the thing went, holy sh... and bam, it's gone.
Yeah, as soon as the camera gets on.
That thing looked real. That didn't look like somebody in a suit. It didn't look like, there was no pareidolia there. That was something.
Pennsylvania.
It was a physical creature of some kind.
It was in Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's one of the more compelling ones.
So, I think my hardest time with the migration of them is the fact that even in the winter months, we have tracks in Tahiti.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't get super cold in Washington.
But they still move around wherever they're at.
Oh, absolutely. But going by some of the theories that they go to higher elevations in the winter and they follow the...
We're not going off that YouTube video, are we?
No.
It might not be higher elevations for winter or summer. It might be that next valley over, all the berries are growing. And then a couple of months from now, it's when all the salmon are coming up this river that's 4 valleys over. And
they're migrating to follow the food.
Yeah.
They're following
they
the
go
food.
to where the food is.
Well,
and they have to have a lot of food.
Well, one of the observations was made that they were following the coyote packs.
Could be.
Maybe.
They could be in some kind of cooperative, or they've learned to...
Where the food
the coyotes are is where we'll find food.
Yeah.
Hey, so do you guys think that Bigfoots have a breeding season like elk and deer, or do you think that they're more like humans and it's like whenever?
I think they're families.
I think it's more of a, if the mood strikes.
Yeah, I think they're more like humans on that side of it.
Yeah, I think they're like other primates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's an estrus cycle, and possibly there's only like three creatures known on Earth to have sexual pleasure: humans, bonobo apes, and dolphins. Perhaps Bigfoot's in that. No. We don't know enough about Bigfoot society to know what they're...
I want to put pandas in that category. Because when we have to make panda porn in order for them to get at it, no, they're doing it for pleasure.
I know when my parents bred, does that count? It was on Halloween one year, and my dad was dressed up that year as the Wolfman. 9 months later, boom, Joe's born.
Yeah. So here's one for you, Joe. Since you're our panelist that actually hears Bigfoot the most.
Yeah, I'm out here looking for him right now. I'm always out here.
Start documenting when you hear them speaking the most.
Speaking,
do you have a recorder?
The only time they were speaking is, like I said, the time with the owls.
Right.
I mean, they were making owl noises. There was definitely not owls. I mean, I've heard the regular owls around here.
Is there a specific...
there was one time... Okay, this was probably 5 years ago.
Okay.
I live at basically the top of a valley. I'm up at the top of a hill. And there's a place about maybe a mile down the valley where they have longhorn steers. Once in a while, they'll be out there. They're right on the road. You can go by and look. I mean, the big Texas longhorns. They bring them in. I don't know if they do it for their show animals, and they bring them in once in a while. I mean, we don't have huge dairy farms anywhere around here. So I'm sitting here one night, and I can hear down the valley, because it echoes right up to where we're at, I can hear them mooing. Moo. And it echoes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is off, let's say, to the west of me. Now, to the northeast of me, I know there's nothing up there. Nobody has cows. There's no pastures. There's no field. And I hear something fairly close, maybe 100 yards behind me. It moves back. But it didn't echo. And it sounded big. And I would hear the cows down there move. Then I would hear whatever was backing up on the other side of me. It moved, and it was moving around. I heard it move from like a northeast, almost a northwest, toward the cows, kind of. But I was in between them. The cows echoed because it was coming up the valley, and then there was, I don't know, 1,000, 1,500-pound cow that was moving back that wouldn't echo. It's really strange. I do have it on video. I use my video on that, and I do have it somewhere.
So it was calling in its
one
food,
of those weird
basically.
things. Mimic. I think they can mimic.
Mm-hmm.
So do they mimic for like a food source, or do they mimic just to mimic?
Well, I
This
think
one almost,
in that case,
sounded like a food source because it was interested in the cows, as opposed to when I heard them hooting going through. There was probably 5 or 6 of them spread out over maybe 100 yards in a big circle, moving from basically from the south of me to the north of me. And I mean, owls don't do that.
And I do firmly believe they do eat cows, because we've had cases up here where animals disappeared. And we're not talking cattle mutilations. We're talking something took the bodies. And there were tracks involved.
And it's possible that stuff is happening around here because we do have a lot of bear, and we have a lot of mountain lions in the area.
Right.
I mean, they're spotted all the time. People's dogs disappearing, cattle disappearing, or cattle don't disappear, but they get killed. Goats disappear. There's a guy that has llamas about a mile east of me. He lost 2 llamas the other night. Gone. You know, there was like some fur on the ground, and they were just gone. And we know it's mountain lion.
Mm-hmm.
In all the years I've been up here, I've only seen 1 mountain lion. It was at night, right through the yard. I'm right here where I'm sitting now. I saw where he went by. It was low and dark and fast, and there was nothing else it could have been.
So, if we wanted to prove a mating season, which again I don't believe there are, but you would want to document when you hear the primate noise. Because I can imagine if they have a mating season, they have a mating call.
Well, you're assuming it's like bears, where the males are solitary.
Right.
And they got to make a noise to try to find a female. I think the Bigfoot stick together. I think Mama and Dad and the babies and the uncle and Grandpa all stick together, and they do whatever they're doing, just like a small tribe.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to hoot to find a male or a partner.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think there's probably a fertility cycle like with most mammals, but I don't think they're limited. I don't think they're limited to we only do it then. I think they're more social than that.
So, getting back
to
humans. Getting back to finding a Bigfoot, how do we prove it scientifically? We want DNA.
The only way you're going to prove it scientifically is with a body, in a lab, with cameras and microphones and news cameras and all that stuff around. It's the only way it's ever going to happen.
Yeah, at the very least.
You can come up with the best video. You can come up with the best still shots. You can come up with absolute fantastic audio of something moving through the woods and making noise or howls, and nobody's going to believe it.
Not until you have a reference specimen
on a slab, or no one's going to believe it.
Exactly.
So what do we want for DNA? And how do we get the DNA?
Kayla.
Well, there have been attempts.
First, DNA is just going to tell you what it is.
And you're not going to have a known specimen to... All you're going to get, if you get just blood or just a tissue sample, is unknown primate. Because it's already happened.
Right.
How many of the tissue
we need
samples and
reference.
blood samples like you just talked about, do they come up with out of these labs and they say it's an unknown North American primate? Well, there isn't any unknown North American primate.
Right. Well, you know, they capture people use screw boards up north. To, the idea is this thing, if you step on it, it's to keep bears out of your cabins, remote cabins. They make screwball. And there's been some, let's say, if you don't have a reference specimen, you've got to have that one Bigfoot body that has been analyzed, the genome.
Bingo.
So when it comes to going on the interdimensional theory, will we get an EMF reading off it?
I don't think anybody's ever been close enough to one with a tri-field meter to find out.
So which is better, a tri-field meter, a K2, which we already kind of...
K2's junk.
Or a standard EMF meter?
I would say the tri-field, because you have more choices.
So what are the choices with tri-field?
What am I saying that's just cracking you two up?
No, I'm looking at...
Chat room, dude.
Oh.
Pay attention. Friend, why is the tri-field meter better?
Maybe it's just personal bias. I just think that you've got an analog meter you're looking at. You can see a slight deviation, deflection, or a major deflection. It just seems like there's with the K2 meter. First off, the K2 meter, among the people that use it for its original intent, say it's a piece of junk. False readings. You can trigger a K2 meter with a camera battery.
Right.
I mean, the tri-field meter, as we saw when we used it in our investigation, didn't react to
the cell phones.
Yeah, we tested it against the gear we had. Everything that we were using, and the tri-field meter did not, on the 0 to 3 milligauss, which, the more sensitive, that's the most sensitive on mine. We didn't get any kind of deflection. We didn't get any kind of reaction.
Okay.
But when we went to the area in the road, we were getting a signal. And as we moved, now with a K2 meter, we wouldn't have seen the amount of deflection. We wouldn't have had a hard number. We'd have just had a flashing light going dee 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 dee. Yeah. That's why I think, at least for initial evidence compilation and gathering, I think the tri-field meter with its Arzaval meter movement is a better, more accurate. I mean, it's still going to pick stuff up. I mean, that's its job. But at least you're going to see, okay, is it pulsed? That could be a handshake with a cell phone, reaching out to the nearest. Whereas with a K2 meter, it's just going to go on.
Yeah.
So, I think for accuracy's sake and just the initial data gathering, I think the tri-field meter is a better tool than a K2 meter. We still don't know what it's reacting to. We know that something in the electromagnetic field is fluctuating, but we don't know. That's just one piece of the.
So why do spirits make it react? Do we know that?
Well, we don't really. No. I mean, that's anecdotal. I think that's one of the things I would like to investigate more. It could be a side phenomenon. It might not be detecting the spirit per se, but something about a spirit manifesting. It's a byproduct we're picking up. The thing with a spirit, if you're seeing it, and you're literally really seeing it through your visual system, that narrows the band of the electromagnetic frequency that it can be existing in, that 380 to 700 nanometer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be interacting with photons in order to be reflecting. There's got to be something sending out from the spirit to the ocular nerve. There's got to be something that's triggering the reaction. So there's got to be some kind of energy involved. It's either reflecting photons, so for that split second that we see it, it's enough in the material world that's interacting with light. The ones that seem to light up on their own, they're gathering energy. Energy is involved.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me lean toward the fact that possibly the EMF meters are detecting the energy that the spirit is using to manifest in somehow. In order for us to literally see, there has to be energy involved somehow, or the nerves in our eyes just aren't going to be triggered. And I think that maybe that's why one of the reasons that we catch them on camera when they didn't see them to start with, when you didn't see them,
right? Because
the camera has a wider. Modern cameras have a more of a range of the electromagnetic spectrum.
See, me personally, I've always thought that ghosts were in a photon form, and through the vibration of the photons, they were doing what's called quantum tunneling, and that's why they could go through walls and in and out of different areas at different speeds and different times.
That's as good a theory as any. They're manipulating.
I have an interesting experiment you guys should try.
Oh, pre-tell.
Set up all your K2 meters and your tri-field meters and all that stuff in a room somewhere, and then have one of your friends that can do astral come in and try to manipulate the equipment.
That has been tried. That has been tried, and I think if I remember right, there was no. And here again, we're taking another unknown, because by and large, yes, maybe
one unknown testing another unknown.
Yeah, so it's like you've got what one person, what some people would consider fantasy land being used to test fantasy land. There's no
essentially, yeah,
because it's an experiment. I didn't say you're trying to prove anything.
Well, I had heard that was been done, and I'm willing to do it. I mean, I think it'd be great. You set up the H2N, set up the tri-field meter, and set up a camera to, and then leave the room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, leave the site. Have one of our astral projection.
No contamination.
Right. Just leave it in there and make sure that the meter isn't going to react to the camera, which we found that it didn't.
And Syntonian.
Well, yeah.
There you go.
To make it really interesting.
One time tried it and it didn't work doesn't mean it's not going to work for you guys.
That's true, because their astral projectionists might have been BS. I noticed that when I was in paranormal groups before, I found that usually the person that was the psychic was the person that was polishing the knob of the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was one of there was damn little real vetting. It's like, oh, my girlfriend thinks she's the psychic, so she's the psychic. And as the crusty old bachelor, I was the one thinking, this is bullcrap.
Yeah.
He's just playing along because he knows he ain't going to get laid if he don't.
Well, and that's the thing. I have very little, and this is going to sound weird coming from me, but I do have little credence with most psychics. I have to know them. I have to have them vetted. I have to know their legitimacy.
I'm closer to believing in astral projection because I've done it a few times myself. So here again, I've had personal experience. That's like, when it comes to ghosts, I'm more of a believer in ghosts than a lot of things because I've had my personal encounter that I couldn't explain any other way. Which, of course,
I
that's
was with Eric
experimental
when he saw
bias,
one.
and it's high, yeah.
So PBR wants to know, what do we think about trail cams having no Bigfoot pics yet? And
well, there have been some. There was a trail cam that apparently caught the backside, the shoulders and head of a retreating Bigfoot. But I think that also comes into I think Bigfoot knows that the trail camera's there.
right,
I think they either can see the infrared beam or whatever signal the game camera
Or
uses.
they do make noise.
Yeah,
Even if we don't hear it, they do make noise.
some kind
Maybe
of
they avoid them,
ultrasonics.
but there have been plenty of them that have caught pictures, but they're, an arm or a leg or something hairy in front of a camera, or, nothing definitive. No selfies.
Yeah, there's not been a really good full-on. Which I think one of the sayings is, if you got Bigfoot on your property and you want him gone, hang up some trail cams.
Mm-hmm.
They'll either avoid the trail cam or they'll destroy it before it captures the evidence.
I think they can either hear a frequency and don't want to be seen, obviously.
All right.
Because I do agree.
Right now, all my trail cams are down. Every
well,
one of them had something go wrong with them.
And you had that one, that you had to send in, and the company never seen anything like it.
Oh,
Well-
yeah, it wasn't working. There was nothing.
Which adds-
We don't know why this isn't working. We've never seen anything like it, and it wasn't like, some guy behind the counter at the Big Five or something. I mean, this was the company that made it. I sent it back to Browning. Mm-hmm. And they were so confused, they sent me a brand new camera.
What was the thing? We've got all this, for lack of a better word, we've got this random evidence. Trail cameras that malfunction in such a way that the engineers that designed it don't even know. Which, I mean, that's not outside of the realm of possibility, because they take stock components to make these things. It could have been, did they go over every single component in the camera, or did they just plug it into a test stand and they couldn't fit, and the test stand just said, nah, not working, without being specific. But that also, we talk about the interdimensional qualities of Bigfoot, and other people have talked about how they seem to have almost like the camouflage, like the Predator movie.
Mm-hmm.
Could this be an effect? Have we captured damage on a camera that was caused by this? See, there's this whole list of random evidence, and there's no way to compile it.
I've got one I'm still going to send back to Browning, the one I have now. See what happens I'll let you guys know.
Okay, again, I'm going to be weird, and I'm going to ask a really weird thing here. Do you think that it's possible, because we talk about Bigfoot being interdimensional, and we talk about it being all kinds of different things and everything like that, could it possibly be the spirit of an ancient race that's extinct, and that's why we're not catching it? Like, we see them, but we don't see them, and they're there, but they're not there?
I think if they were just a spirit, though, you wouldn't have the other trace evidence, like the footprints.
Or the hair.
The hair.
So then why do we put flour out to catch a ghost?
Yeah, because you can get a
That was
ghost
old
print.
school.
Well,
But why did they do it?
Well, you're looking at back in the 60s and 70s.
And I don't think they caught ghost footprints on flour. I think that was a
Yeah,
human
but that's
agent.
a personal opinion. And that's the thing. Like, it could still work. It could be the same.
I'm not saying it is. I was just saying, like, if we think about, like, maybe making it a dimension thing.
Well,
versus...
okay, you're saying maybe that they are spirits. Well, maybe they have spirits. Maybe there are Bigfoot ghosts out there. Just like, how many people have you heard tell stories about, well, my dog died a month ago, but then I felt it brush up against my leg the other day. Mm-hmm. Maybe there are animal spirits. Maybe everything that's flesh and blood out there has a spirit form.
Yeah, apparently.
We just don't notice the bird spirit forms, or maybe those are orbs. Who knows? We don't notice the lizards when they die.
At Mom and Dad's house.
Well, there's got to be. the way
there has to be some kind of tangible, because there's hair.
If you're catching some kind of, if you're using flour on the floor or talcum powder or something, you know.
Well, they do that on the back of cars. They'll sprinkle talcum powder in the back of a car, and then it'll move, and they'll say, "Look, there's fingerprints in the back of the car." Well, that's probably your own damn fingerprints.
Yeah, that were left over.
Yeah,
I would say if flour worked, it was because the probably electrostatic, some kind of electromagnetic energy that the spirit was manipulating to manifest.
That was a big...
I love the old school method of putting down something like talcum powder or flour. I absolutely love that.
That was a big...
I love the extreme low tech, like hanging a string across a doorway and putting a bell on it.
And they did that on The Conjuring a lot.
How low tech can you get? And that works sometimes.
Well, that was an old Warren technique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was old school.
Which would suggest
you get something like that happening, you can't go, oh, well, that's a digital bell and that string was in the wrong spectrum. No, it's a string and a bell.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I don't know, because energy and matter, if just go back to E equals MC squared, the energy required to convert energy into matter and vice versa is, we make bombs out of that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to think that it just doesn't seem like the spirits should be able to manipulate, or there's no evidence that suggests that the spirits can manipulate that kind of power. They seem to be low energy.
I think it depends on the spirit.
There's no evidence that we've discovered yet. That's the thing. We have so many unexplained things.
If you want to talk about it scientifically, all the scientists will tell you matter is never destroyed. It's just converted into something else.
Mm-hmm.
Energy, yeah.
So there you go.
And that's always been, and I'll probably butcher this, but
probably
you always, well, I'm not a scientist, but you always hear about hot and cold spots, which is why I have a digital thermometer with a dual reading. In that the theory is you shoot the thermometer across a room that's haunted, and you'll see a variation of 5 degrees, 5 to 10 or higher. And the theory behind it is the spirit is pulling the molecules of the environment to create a hot spot or a cold spot.
Usually a cold spot. I think it's taking the available energy,
right?
Possibly even the quantum foam or some kind of. But energy is heat, and if you have a cold spot, something is absorbing the energy in that area and slowing the molecular vibration down.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
you just hit on one of my big pet peeves with all these shows on TV. Oh, look, can you feel this cold spot? Well, doesn't one of those people have a thermometer?
Exactly.
Right. See, and that's why
we do.
That's how cold it is. It's freezing.
That's why I carry one.
A thermometer you can buy for $2.
Yep.
No, 20 for a good one. Mine was $20.
Oh, good one. Or you get a digital thermometer, but then again, it's a digital medium, and that can be manipulated. And
no, but that's
the problem you have with a regular aneroid barometer, and it's the reaction times. Mm-hmm. And some of this stuff, that cold spot doesn't stay there. So you need a that's where I lean.
Even a thermal camera would show a cold spot, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've seen that.
Cameras, but they'll never point one at a cold spot.
Well, they're always. Oh, did you see that? Yeah. Yeah, the camera is never pointed in the direction.
Arm. What kind of proof is that?
Yeah.
and see, that's the thing, and that's why I have a dual readout. Because, sure, you've got your thermometer. Are you going to run to the other side of the room to see if there's a difference? No, that takes too much. I just shoot it across the room, and it'll tell me if there's a variation. And what's really interesting is and that's why paranormal tools if you go to the right place, they're cheap. You can get a lot of this stuff from Home Depot and Lowe's. Why? Because it's the same stuff carpenters use and construction workers use. It's mundane equipment. You don't need a fancy piece of equipment for this stuff. Carpenters use it. Construction workers use it. EMF, readouts. They use EMF meters in the construction field, in the carpentry field, the electrician field, to see if there's a higher readout from your power board or from your. I'm saying
you got some unshielded cable somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, Dennis is in the chat room and he was asking about laser pointers and the fact that they're photons and wouldn't that interact with a ghost? Isn't that what you got, that laser grid?
Yeah, I got the laser grid pen, so that the idea is you've got a pure wavelength of photons, and it gives, if a spirit is moving through,
you'll see it.
You'll see it move through the grid pattern.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that theory, and I love the equipment, and I love the idea behind it, but the only time I've ever seen a laser grid work was one of the Kinect Spot things from an Xbox, but it was in the movie Paranormal Activity. I think it was the second or third one. Something walks. That's the only time I've ever seen it work.
We haven't actually gone. We've done the one investigation. We haven't really limbered out all of our resources yet. We got to find us a active.
We're going to Fort Casey.
We'll have to go somewhere where there's a known hot spot or an alleged hot spot, and see
Cole's
what
going
we
to
get.
take you to the communication room.
Oh, I'm up for it.
Well, I want to try.
I seem to be like a dampening field for that kind of shit, though.
But here's the thing: I want to try something. It's a fort, so I'm going to take my ACUs, and we're going to try two things. We're going to walk in there in just our normal everyday clothes, see if something happens, woohoo, and then I'm going to go in there in a military uniform.
I'll get some khakis, some Navy
Well, I like
khakis.
that idea.
I
like that idea.
Go in dressed.
Like military.
I'm thinking go in there with, even if I don't buy a Navy, if I buy ACUs like you've got,
it doesn't matter because military uniform is military uniform.
Right.
I would think put the rank on and whatnot, and I want to see if there's a difference in interaction between a military spirit and them seeing a civilian versus them seeing someone in the military.
I honestly think that experiment should only be with you. Were you military?
Yes.
But you should honestly be wearing your military colors, not his.
Trying to find a set of Navy dress blues for a fat son of a bitch like me. Don't be
I get that, Markham. No, you also got to think.
Just Navy.
That's why I was saying khakis.
We also don't want to piss off the spirit.
Well, there again.
No, but he can get a Navy uniform. It's Whidbey.
We don't want to insult them, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
it's
so like,
Whidbey
I
Navy
wouldn't
based.
wear anything like that.
I guess I'd just try and find some Cracker Jacks in my size, which is going to be.
They got Navy surplus stores there. You'll find a uniform.
I think they retired the.
Huh?
I read an article. It seems like they. Maybe if I could just get the dungarees and cambric shirt like the working uniform.
That's all you need.
So you guys are going to go into a place that might be haunted. You're going to be wearing your military uniforms. You're going to have your video and your audio recorders going, and you're going to hear, "Oh yeah, where's your DD-214?"
Yeah,
and I'll pull mine out.
I've actually got one. Yeah, I've got mine too somewhere.
And then you'll hear "Coin up."
Yeah,
I've got a coin too. I've got 2 coins. I'll give you one. You can use it that day. Here's my coin. It's a general's coin.
I'd like to have one my oldest stepdaughter had. The only coin that could challenge it was from the president. She had as far up as you could go.
Oh, I don't have a president's coin.
Without the president.
Last time someone said "coin up," I whipped out a Trump coin and put it on there. I said, "Commander-in-Chief, beat that, motherfuckers." Oops, excuse me.
But yeah, I've always, it's usually civilians that deal with haunted spots. They go to the Gettysburg battlefields. I'd always be curious, though. If you put a uniform on, you go to the Gettysburg battle.
Cases where reenactors have actually had encounters with spectral soldiers during... There's been cases where they thought this guy was part of their team.
And it was a spirit.
And it was a spirit, yes. There's actually been interactions with reenactors.
Kayla, what era is Fort Casey from?
Because you got to remember...
Early 1900s, so 1909, I believe.
Okay.
So it wasn't active in World War II?
It was active in World War II. It got decommissioned in 1976, I believe.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering if I'm just a bit too Asian to wake the spirits up there, because my own presence might piss them off.
Well, that's a good test, too.
Yeah, that could be.
For you guys.
Oh.
So, as far as the military reenactments go, my brother's big time into it. I'm a little bit into it. I'm into it once in a while, but we got those cannons. They're 1862 Parrott rifles, 10-pounders, and we fire those things off. I've taken thousands of pictures, and I've always hoped to find something on those films, but I've always been able to identify everyone that I see in the pictures was supposed to be there. I was always hoping there was someone there that wasn't supposed to be there.
I think you have better luck on the East Coast.
Plus, we're doing it in California, so...
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think you have more luck with that kind of thing, attracting period soldiers or military where the action actually happened. Now, on this side,
it actually affected a lot of people out here. 1849, you had the gold rush out here. This place was booming, and the Civil War was basically happening out on the East Coast, but everybody here on the West Coast knew somebody there.
So, where you're at, I think they shut down Fort Irwin. Yeah. Unless that's where the Desert Training Center is. NTC?
Yeah. That's Southern California.
So, I'd be curious to go into some of the areas on Irwin that have to be haunted.
Well, here we got Warren, Flagler, and Casey. Mm-hmm. All three of which are decommissioned.
A lot of people that went through there that never came back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I fully suspect that if I could dive deep enough, I would find my dad haunting the picking. Right. I think if the picking were still afloat and in the mothball fleet, he'd probably be sitting under his gun tub watching the world go by.
In 2020. Oh, God. So, when we go in... So, I want to focus our investigation when we go to Casey on the communication room. Because we've heard too many stories of activity in that room, correct?
Absolutely. Out of all of the places at Casey, you hear more stories about the that room and the lighthouse than you do of any of the rest of the fort.
Lighthouse, yeah. And I can see that. Lighthouses alone have always intrigued me anyway.
Yeah, there's a whole book on haunted lighthouses on the East Coast.
Why would that be?
I don't know. I
honestly think
it has... people that were there, that ran the lighthouses, they were alone, and I'm sure there was a lot of emotion, good or bad.
They were extremely dedicated.
Right into it.
Right.
Maybe they haunt it because that took a lot of dedication.
And that was their
long-term lighthouse.
And if anything else, there's probably a lot of residual haunting. Because they walked up the steps every day. They played with the lights at the top every day. They came down the steps every day. Right. It's almost like a routine thing that they had to do for years and years and years without other people bothering them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and if they messed up at all, or they didn't call it in quick enough, or they didn't turn it on enough, any of those ships that wrecked in there would be pissed at the lighthouse keeper. So you'd have all of the people that died aboard a ship that were using that.
So you're going to have angry residual energy at the lighthouse.
Potentially.
Potentially. if you've got crash ships that blame the lighthouse keeper for why they crashed, you're going to have angry spirits at the lighthouse.
Anybody else thinking of the movie The Fog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about that one? I was thinking of When Darkness Falls, but yeah.
Well,
Evil Tooth Fairy.
That was a tooth fairy.
There's a very well publicized phenomenon up in Michigan. There's a Point Pleasant lighthouse. Anyhow, this lighthouse has the power cut off, but the light still cuts on. And it's an electric light. It's not one of the old oil burner lights. It's not. And people see this from miles away, and there's no power. I mean, the power was cut, literally cut. There's no light going. There's no electrical power source.
No generators on site, nothing?
No.
And PBR says, state with the most lighthouses is Michigan.
Now I wonder on that one, and I'm not saying that it isn't some kind of supernatural phenomenon either, but because of the way that they spread the light through the mirroring in lighthouses,
The Fresnel
could
lens?
it potentially be a reflection off of
That's
something?
one of the theories, is that there's a light source somewhere else that's hitting that Fresnel lens and being broadcast. But it seems
like if it only happens at a full moon or something.
Well, I think they've eliminated that, but that an outside light source being reflected by the Fresnel lens, I'm not sure if they've ever looked into that.
Okay.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we got to go to our third break, third hour. So we will be right back.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
back to S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
And welcome back to the last hour of S4 tonight, and we're going to talk about scientific theory in the last hour here.
Method.
There you go, scientific method. What? So, start us off with scientific method, Marco.
Okay. Textbook scientific method, 5 to 6 steps. First, you make an observation. Okay, in this case, we've seen a ghost. Okay, ask yourself the question, what was that? Now you form a hypothesis based on, and the hypothesis has to be flexible because as you're gathering more evidence, your hypothesis, you can't be married to your hypothesis. Mm-hmm. Then you have to predict a behavior based on your hypothesis. The ghost is here, say you're just focusing on one part of the phenomenon. Does that create a fluctuation in the electromagnetic field? Say we try that. Then you make your observations, you gather your data, you test the prediction. You're saying, okay, I think if this thing, it's going to create a cold spot and it's going to affect the electromagnetic field. Then you go about collecting data along those lines and you plug it all in. Did you see the ghost? Say everything works right. You see the ghost. You see yay or nay on both of your points, your experimental points. Mm-hmm. You still have one bad problem there.
Repeatability.
Reproducibility. You have another team has to be able to go in there with the gear and get the same result. And that's the biggest problem with the paranormal and science. Science is a tool that works best when you can make accurate predictions and you can set up, a control. Mm-hmm. You have to have a positive and negative control. I mean, every day of my life, what I do in the lab, there's a negative control and a positive control. And in some cases, there's 2 negative controls because of what we're doing. And we don't have that in the paranormal.
No.
We can catch the best evidence ever. And if it's a one-off, you got to wait around for another team or somebody else to come along and get the same results.
Yeah. See the same spirit.
Same spirit, same activity, same...
I agree 100% with everything you just said. But the one thing people keep throwing out there is the reproducibility.
Yep.
That is not set in stone in all scientific endeavors. For example, my senior thesis was the stratigraphy and paleontology of the Pisons Creek Basin in northwestern Colorado. And it was subtitled The Journal of Irreproducible Results. The Journal of Irreproducible Results. And when I went up to defend my thesis, they got on my ass about that. And I said, look, I argued with them about it, and it came down to, look, I was digging up dinosaur bones for 3 years. That's what it was all about. My hypothesis was, look, I pulled something out of the ground once. I said, look at this dinosaur bone. You know what? You cannot reproduce that. That bone is never going to be pulled out of that spot again.
Ah.
Sure, you pull up other bones from somewhere else, but as for that being exactly reproducible, there is a scientific fact, no. And they passed me through.
That is a point.
I was able to argue it.
So then you have to have enough similar,
but not exact reproducible.
You can't exactly. Okay, there's another problem with science. If I do something on the molecular level, mm-hmm. some kind of molecular research, like what I've been doing all week is doing the detection assay for COVID-19, the first one that was developed in this country.
Okay.
We're using University of Washington's RNA recovery for COVID-19 identification. That is where the scientific method works best, because another lab can use the same technique and get the same results from the same sample.
Right.
And we have a known positive. We make it ourselves. We have a known negative. We make it ourselves. Mm-hmm. So you've got the problem with paranormal is, how often are you going to have everything? The barometric pressure, just, everything that occurs when a spirit manifests. One, how many groups are actually equipped? Because I've spent a small fortune in the last couple of months assembling the stuff.
With the same gear.
The same gear.
At the same time.
Same method.
Right.
So science is good when you've got a known quantity that you want to study. Science isn't worth a crap for this for paranormal, because there's no reproducibility, and there's no positive and there's no negative control. Nothing reliable. The best you can hope for is to compile everybody's data and see where they overlap. The barometer dropped this many milligrams of mercury. The temperature dropped this many degrees Fahrenheit. You compile...
Or Bigfoot DNA done by a lab, and they say, we don't know what it is. Here it is, but we don't know what it is. Nothing matches that, so it doesn't exist. But if you find 8 different labs that have come up with that same result, why hasn't anybody done that?
I don't think they want to. Yeah, I mean, if you've got a genome...
Has to get out there and get all those different results from all over the country over the decades that this has been done, and say, look, there's something here. Don't just
they
say,
did that.
We don't know what it is.
The Smithsonian actually did a expedition, and I wish I hadn't lost that magazine, because you can't find it. Next time I see the entire catalog of the Smithsonian magazine on disc, I'm going to get it and see if it's in there. But they came back out of the Himalayas, out of Tibet, and the sample they found came back unknown hominid species.
Right.
Exactly.
That's the... Yeah. Now, take that, sequence it, right. Put it on PCR, you magnify it, get that genome down so that you have a baseline, and see how all these other unknown hominid species stack up against that.
So with the genome, if you had 3 different Bigfoot, and they all went to 3 different labs, would that genome be the same for all 3, even though they're unidentifiable hominids?
I think to a degree, yes. I think that if you go to, there's going to be some genetic variation. Yeah, that's just it. We got the
swamp apes down in the south might be different than what's up near you in the Pacific Northwest, which might be completely different than what's running around over in the Himalayas.
Yeah, if you do just the basic,
going to be really close.
Right. Well, I think what happens down south, especially in Florida, they had that primate research lab, and they had animals escape from there. Every picture of a swamp ape I've seen either looks like a chimpanzee or
orangutan.
Yeah, I think what we're dealing with down in Florida for the most part are escaped primates that have the climate's
there was one video, a bunch of people stopped alongside of a road. There's like 20 people out there watching this. It looked like an upright man in a big dark costume walked all the way across this grassy field out in the swamp, but then disappeared behind the trees. That wasn't an orangutan. That wasn't a chimp.
Okay, so
it was something, but maybe
I think a lot of the sightings down there, though, you might actually have, because the South has, if you're looking up Bigfoot in the South, you don't look up Sasquatch or Bigfoot.
You look up
hairy man, wild man, grass man. There's booger, swamp booger. Yeah, there's different ways to look them up that you find more. The Lugaroo down in Louisiana is more of a vulpine, lupine type of thing. From
Europe.
I'm thinking so. Came with the original French.
Yeah.
Or the Spanish. I mean, the Lugaroo is a different cryptid in its own right.
But it makes me wonder what the difference in DNA would be between your common dog, your wolf, coyote, and...
Unfortunately, I have not seen it. I know that with the proper equipment and the proper sequencing analyzer, you can find the genetic differences.
Okay.
I don't know the process. I could do it if I had the samples. I could do it, but I haven't personally had a chance to do it. But I would love to be able to get a sample from the Pacific Northwest, the swamps of Virginia, the Great Dismal Swamp. My father-in-law and I had an encounter down there. We used to get back into the swamp fishing from Mill Creek in Hertford. But being able to get these different things and analyze them and look for genetic drift, you're going to find genetic drift. I think you're going to have a baseline, like if you do human, you get the 23 chromosomes, the X and the Y terminals.
Right.
You're going to,
Humans
this is
and
human.
Chimps, their DNA is 96% the same.
Yes.
So it's going to be very similar, whatever you find.
But the fact that they can get these samples that say unknown primate, unknown hominid, we need to compare all these unknowns and look for the similarities or the parts of the sequence that are exactly the same. But we're hung up on, the scientific community is hung up on, well, it's an unknown, they don't have the dead body in their lab for the reference. They have to go back to the reference specimen.
Right.
And then I think they're so narrowly focused, they're not seeing the forest for the trees type of thing.
The scientific community basically pisses me off, and I can say that as a scientist.
Yeah, you and me both.
All of the researchers and the people that are out there in the universities, they've already put out their theories for the last 30 years or whatever, and they do not want to hear anything that contradicts what they've already put down on paper.
Right.
Because that means their funding goes away, their money goes away, their research goes away. They're not. You can walk up and give them a Bigfoot, and they'll say, "Nope, doesn't exist. Never heard of it."
So is
it the same with things like the Sphinx when they're saying, "Hey, this thing's 10,000 years older than everybody thinks it is"? Well, nobody believes that because all the Egyptologists, no, they've already got their theories out there, and their money is invested in a certain idea, and they're not going to budge.
Well, they know that the Sphinx was originally, or it's thought, they're pretty sure that originally the Sphinx was this gigantic lion.
Yeah.
And that it got the head of the lion. Because if you look at the head of the Sphinx, it's completely out of proportion to the body. They carved Khufu's head onto that.
The Sphinx and the three Great Pyramids, they go back further than when the Egyptians were actually in Egypt.
Absolutely.
Those guys showed up and found that stuff.
Yeah, it was there.
So in Ancient Aliens, they had Egyptologists that actually came out and they had the head of the lion on the Sphinx, but the head of the jackal was buried in the sand next to the Sphinx. Have you seen that episode?
There's a theory that there was actually at one time two Sphinxes.
Mm-hmm.
One on each side of, like maybe a couple 100 yards away on the Giza Plateau, and it's gone. It was destroyed.
Like lions opening the gate of the library. Like that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A guardian.
So, when you're looking at the Sphinx, and you're looking at the gods that ruled at those time periods, what they have today is the lion. The jackal would have been Artemis. I'm probably wrong. Izzy's going to correct me. I don't think it was Artemis. It was who's the Jackalhead?
Jackalhead was Anubis.
Anubis. There you
Anubis,
go. There you go.
Guardian of the Dead.
Yeah, Anubis. And so they're saying that because of the culture of Egypt at that point, they worshipped Anubis, and then it got switched. Yeah, I know, dear. She said, "Oh yeah, Artemis is a totally different pantheon." Yeah, I knew it was an A. But yeah, it really all had to do with who they worshipped at the point, which they worshipped Anubis. The culture changed. They took the head of Anubis off, put him in the sand, and put the lion head on.
Well, we see that in statues and paintings from all over the world where they went from something to something else or transformed them from this to that because their beliefs changed or whatever.
Right.
Well, Anubis was the god of the dead. He conducted souls to the afterlife.
Right.
Yeah.
And, and then the Greeks took it and they called it Hermes. But it's basically the same thing.
Same dude, different god name.
Well,
yeah.
Hermes gets bound up with Thoth as well.
Yeah.
The Hermetic magic tradition, Hermes and Thoth.
Thoth was the ibis, I believe.
Yeah, the ibis.
Well, you have so many similarities in different gods from different cultures that it could basically be the same person.
You have a deity that does the same thing in almost every culture.
Well, also, Thoth evolved from a person that is thought to have existed. He was sort of a prehistoric Leonardo da Vinci, if you will. And the name is escaping me. I cannot... I can't pull it up. But they think that this person, probably, the Tesla or the Einstein of his day, and they deified him because, it was enough. A lot of the gods started out as mortals and then they were deified by people.
So, okay, getting back to, I'm still trying to figure out, how do you identify the strains of an unknown?
That's just it. Without
have to have
a
comparison
reference,
samples.
yeah, you got to have
right. You
got to have that one stock reference sample that you can compare all your others to, and that's the problem.
Are you looking at the chromosomes? Or are you looking at what do you?
I think that we've gotten to where you can take a single chromosome and expand it out now.
Okay.
I mean, it's like the Human Genome Project. They unraveled the entire chain, the entire human DNA, including what they call junk genes and introns and all that.
So is he saying if you have to have a known to compare it to, but we don't have a known because all the Bigfoot samples come out as an unknown primate.
Right, so you would have to compare to the comparison. So you'd have to have all of them.
That's the problem. You're comparing unknowns to unknowns.
Exactly. So you'd have to have a bank of the unknowns until you eventually found what it actually was, and then you could relate this is this.
Well, that's going to be stalled out until such time as a Bigfoot body is actually recovered.
Right.
And
then you have your known.
Then we have our reference specimen. Then everything can be compared to the reference specimen.
Yeah. Right.
Then you can start analyzing genetic drift by environment. Like, I believe if we had a reference, say we get a Pacific Northwest Sasquatch body, we completely analyze the genome. Then we can compare that to
the swamp ape.
Swamp ape. We can, then these other specimens that have been... Yeti. These other unknown hominids can be compared to our reference specimen.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like when we find a sample of an unknown animal in the animal kingdom. So you find some hair or something of anything unknown. You put it in the bank. You wait until you find the actual creature, and then you go, oh, this isn't unknown anymore. This is this.
Well, the scientific community is very prone to inertia. We knew...
Exactly.
We knew
they don't like
that...
change.
They don't like change, and it's like, okay... They knew that the giant squid existed because they were finding sperm whales with these gigantic sucker marks on them, the size of dinner plates. They were finding remnants in the bellies, and the scientific community still said, there's no such thing as a giant... Well, bullcrap. You're finding secondary evidence.
Until there was actually a physical body right here it is.
They finally grabbed a tentacle off of one and had some video footage of it attacking the lure. Now, the giant... Well, they do. The mountain gorilla was a cryptid. The natives knew it was there, but because, they were looked down on as savages, well, we can't take their word for it. It wasn't until somebody got in the jungle, killed one of these poor things, and killed a bunch of them, actually, and shipped them back, a ridiculous amount of them, brought them back to England where they could be, that's just, unfortunately, that's just the way it is.
Well, look at the very first person that sent a full, actual, dead platypus back. Oh, and they looked at it and said, ha ha ha, you're funny, dude.
No, he was incensed. The curator sent a note back to the field biologist. How dare you try to prank this?
Exactly. They were like, okay,
thought
you're
it was
funny.
Like a jackalope. They did not accept it until, all of a sudden, here's the more.
Live one. Yeah,
we've got something that looks like a manimal that lays eggs, a monotreme, one of the few that exist.
Going off the possibility,
there's a lot of weird stuff in Australia.
Bigfoot is interdimensional.
Oh, they have the Yowie down there. There's one we haven't talked about.
Is it possible that we can't ever actually do some of those tests?
Because
we can't until we actually.
No, but even if we have him.
Well,
some of those tests, can we do them if
we have
a physical body? Yes,
we can do the test.
Even if he exists in more than 3 dimensions.
I do, yes, because if you have that physical body, you have matter that's in a stable state. I don't think the interdimension. It might be the reason we don't find bodies.
In this dimension, what I'm saying is, what if he doesn't just exist in this dimension at one time?
I think by having the reference specimen, we could detect that.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I think if you had a reference specimen, we have the Bigfoot corpse. First off, that might be why we never find them. If they're interdimensional, when they die, they just
leave.
They leave
the other dimension.
Yeah. They go to their.
But if we ever get one that didn't, what I'm wondering is, will half the test register?
I believe they will, because you're dealing with a physical. As long as you have this thing in a physical matter
but then again,
form.
But that's what I'm saying, Marcum, is you're not.
Well, a portion of it...
If it's in both more than 3 dimensions, you are not dealing with a physical form.
If you've got it on a slab...
Wait, hold on. Right now, Cole, you're stuck on the idea that Bigfoot is an interdimensional being. You've preloaded all of your assumptions around that.
Well, no, I'm asking.
Like Marcum is saying, if we have a body...
You're not stuck if you're questioning it. I'm saying if.
I think, that's one of the questions we could answer if we had the body or had a willing specimen.
I guess what I'm asking is, have any, so we have found items within this universe that we question whether they are in 3 dimensions or if they are in other dimensions as well. There are scientists that believe that there are things that exist in more than 1 dimension.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? So what I'm asking you is, has anyone ever tried using that equipment on something that they believe is more than just the third dimension?
I don't think so.
As far as I know, there's not a piece of equipment out there that can measure things in the fourth dimension.
They've tried. They've set up these experiments down in caves and, tried to shield them from neutrinos, which you just can't do.
I'm pretty sure that's why we don't know what dark matter actually is.
Well, I think dark matter is I think what we're eventually going to have to do is go back to the idea of the ether. I think dark matter is just the modern version of the ether. But going back to the supposition, if we have a physical specimen, even if it exists in more than 3 dimensions, the fact that we have that specimen and can take matter from it means that we will be able to test that matter to the extent of our technology.
Right.
To the extent that exists in our 3 dimensions.
Right.
So would that show up, and I think it's kind of already answered, but would that show up that he is indeed an interdimensional being?
I don't think we have.
I don't have the knowledge to do that yet.
I would take
we don't have the ability to measure that.
That would take a cooperative live specimen that we could communicate with and say, okay, now phase out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we're going to be able to get into the woo-woo factor with what we have.
Until we actually understand everything there is to know about quantum physics, that we'll never understand anything in a dimension that we don't live in. Existent, yes. So until we can actually find a scientific basis to explain all quantum physics, to wrap it up into one nice little ball, we're never going to understand something that we can't physically be part of.
But we can explore with what we have. We can take a lot of the questions out. Is this thing human, humanish, hominid, primate? If we had that physical specimen, we could at least get a hold of the concrete details of that physical body. We're not going to be able to answer all the questions.
Even if it was in a state of flux, you might only get a percentage of the equation, but you'd still get a percentage of it. Like, you'd still get certain aspects of its DNA.
You could get its DNA. Yeah. You could get probably skeletal structure. There's things you could get. We could do a CT scan of the entire body. An MRI, an MRI probably wouldn't be, if it was dead, I don't think an MRI would do much for us. A CAT scan would. But, autopsy.
Well, the MRI might actually work if it was an interdimensional creature, because you might be able to see it do the transitioning slip, depending on how much power or energy
how long ago it died maybe might help that too.
Yeah.
Right.
Because don't we have brain activity for a certain amount of time after we physically die?
Yes.
So
it's only a matter of minutes.
But even 15 minutes. And they
if you die in the MRI machine, it's still functioning, kind of.
For X amount of time.
I'm not sure about... I don't know if anybody's ever tried to do MRIs of a corpse. I know they've done CT studies of mummies.
Yeah, they have.
They've done MRI with corpses, with cadavers?
Magnetic resonance imaging. It's looking at the solid matter. Mm-hmm. They're not measuring the electrical conduits that are basically the key to life. I mean, okay.
It's just getting all the atoms to spin in the same direction. A lot of people believe
there's a spirit that moves on, right? Well, wouldn't that spirit be the fourth dimension? Well, we can't measure that in us. How the hell are we going to measure that in a Bigfoot?
That's true. Well, like I said, we're not going to get the whole story from...
That's what I mean. It would be like downloading a corrupted file. You'd get specific pieces, but you wouldn't get it all.
Well, we could answer a lot of things, though. We'd have its genome. We'd have basic genetics. Do they male, female, carried on XY chromosome? There's so much we could get from and we would say, okay, we now know that this creature exists. Hell, there's things about humans we don't know. Where does consciousness reside? Is consciousness in the brain? Is the brain merely a radio that picks up the broadband
When they tried to measure the soul, they said as soon as the soul leaves, you lose 6 ounces or something like that.
That guy's experiment. Yeah, that guy was.
That's a theory.
Debunked.
Yeah.
That they did. I can say this, having been bedside for a death on several occasions, there's this intangible quality that disappears. When you're doing CPR on somebody and they're gone, and there's just a point where you look into the eyes and you know they're dead. Mm-hmm. This person is not, but it's not tangible, it's not provable.
Right.
It's just
measurable.
It's not measurable. You just, but it's there.
Yep.
We just don't know how to record it or measure it. Because here again, science is really great for tangible things. As soon as you get into the intangible, science falls apart. Even within the within quantum theory. That's why there's so many wild theories within that, is because things are going on that we don't know how to explain. We don't know how to
explain without making it into it's string theory. It's multiverse theory.
It's like dark matter. Well, there was a thing long before dark matter called the ether that explained a lot of that phenomenon. Mm-hmm. Well, then it got poo-pooed because those weren't good enough scientists. Now I got to get my doctoral thesis out there. Dark matter. Well, even if you look into that, the theory about dark matter and dark energy doesn't answer the questions.
No, not even close. Not even scratching the surface.
So what do they have to do to prove dark matter?
Well, they can't because it doesn't interact. Yeah, it's undetectable. It's like I said,
Isn't that what they're trying to do in CERN, though?
They're more looking for they look for the Higgs boson, and they're looking for
particle available.
Yeah, and if you and I think Nassim Harriman's got the point on this. The bigger you're never going to find the ultimate particle because the ultimate particle does not exist, and the bigger, if you could make a particle accelerator that circled the entire solar system, you would find more particles than what you can find at CERN. I believe that he's right. That at the basis of everything, the smallest you can go, there's going to be a quantum singularity. In other words, a black hole is at the foundation of everything. And his math, and I'm not a good enough mathematician to know if it's wrong, but at least he's come up with math that looks like it answers that question. But everything is flexible. You think of how black holes were considered merely theoretical. Now they're known as a fact. Mm-hmm. It was thought that nothing could escape a black hole. Well, there's Hawking radiation. They do evaporate. They let off Hawking radiation.
They do expel. There are particles that expelled from black holes. They've found them.
The Hawking radiation.
And you do not want to be in that stream.
No. Well, I don't want to be close enough to a black hole to be in any kind of...
Oh, no.
Honest to God, I don't think we're ever... I think the problem is you have physics, you have science on this side, and metaphysics on this side. And until we figure out a way to combine the two, you're not going to find the answers.
You have to have
You're not going to find any ultimate truths with only half the facts.
There isn't anybody on either side of that with enough of an open mind to take in both sides of that.
No,
it's just never going to happen.
It's so open-minded, their brains fall out.
But they're in the government. The government's keeping everything hush-hush. If that's the case.
There have been some weird cases where, like when they were developing night vision technology, and the further they went into the infrared, they were starting to see things that were not in this dimension, so to speak. Mm. But there again, show me a paper. Yeah, show me a white paper. Show me, it's anecdotal. Mm-hmm. That kind of stuff just doesn't get published. It just becomes. If you're lucky, you might find an unrefereed white paper on it.
It gets sent to DARPA.
And unfortunately, if you think about it, humans are very into ourselves. So if we can't see it, if we can't touch it, if we can't observe this, if we can't, then it must not exist. Mm-hmm. Because that's the way that we take in things. We take them in through our senses. So if we can't sense this in any way, then...
Well, you can't see a radio wave, but they exist. We can't.
But we have a way of detecting them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of things Nikola Tesla. We can't see. The human eye is not as good as everyone thinks it is.
No, 380 nanometers to 700 nanometers. That's a tiny little section of the entire electromagnetic spectrum. That's why we have
but that's what I'm saying is before we figured out a way to detect this, it didn't exist. Until we figured out a way to detect it, now it exists. So until we figure out a way to detect everything, then only what we can measure exists.
I think one of the best ways I've ever heard that explained is science is a candle in a dark room. It only reveals a little bit at a time.
What's keeping science back? Is it money? Is it the loss of funding? Is it the loss of credibility on the scientist part?
Very much so, because if you look at the guy down at I think it was University of Arizona was doing, and it was a minimal amount of $1,500 to do a Bigfoot expedition. The man damn near lost his job. Yeah, they shut him down, and he damn near lost his job. Meanwhile, you got some asshole up in Massachusetts smashing monkey brains for millions of dollars. There was no point. The guy was just getting rhesus monkeys, putting them in the thing, head trauma. Supposedly studying head trauma. I think he was just some perverse turd that got off on killing.
I heard about the other scientists that got paid millions to have a jaguar run on a treadmill to see how fast he can go.
Yeah, do monkey. Yeah,
that's kind of cool, actually.
That's the problem is...
I want to know how fast one can run.
Well, the problem is if you have science for science sake, with no peer review, or you get too much pseudoscience and charlatanism.
Right.
Just, give me some money, I'll spend $20,000 of this $4 million grant on gear. Yeah, I can mash a monkey head. And now I've got a house in Malibu and I've got one on Long Island.
Bingo.
But the problem is it's so heavily regulated. It's so corrupt. If you've got the right connection and can write a grant, you can get money for garbage. And it's not good science, it's just garbage. There's got to be a balance, and there's not. You've got academics who fully believe in, and if you could get these academics to come out and address this, we'd find some answers. But publish or perish. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose my tenure. I don't want to lose my research grant. It's science is being held back by the corruption of the system. And it's become a religion, not a tool. Right. People forget, because of the way scientists are held up and the way science is talked about in the mainstream, it's not a tool anymore. It's a religion.
Well, and think about some of the greatest minds of all times, okay? And think about what happened to them when they decided to do something that was...
Galileo
considered okay by scientific method at that point. Like, look at Tesla, for instance. He died in a hotel room by himself with nothing, basically. Because
look at Galileo under house arrest because he decided, the Earth is not the center of the universe. Then you have Nicholas Copernicus had already discovered that previously, and knew he was a part of the church and knew that if he...
I better shut my mouth on this.
Yeah, you better shut up. If I publish this, my findings, I'll be excommunicated and burned.
Tycho Brahe was
Tycho Brahe, yeah. The man with the metal nose.
A new idea, and it was right. And the church said, we're going to burn you. And they did.
Well, there's also a
mistake.
There's also a scientist that came out and talked about the God DNA, and talked about he found an alien link with human DNA, and he got shut down. I can't remember the name now.
The problem with that is, like Eric's been explaining all night long, you don't have a test sample.
Yeah, where's the alien DNA?
You know, unless you have an alien and say, here's the alien DNA, here's the human DNA, some of the human DNA is the same as the alien DNA, you don't know.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
the
junk DNA they call.
Yeah.
And there's things in our genome that nobody knows what they do or why they're there. I mean, you can even look at the purely physical. What's an appendix do? Nobody knows.
The point is, though, this scientist, the minute he mentioned aliens with human DNA, got shut down.
Oh, absolutely.
They couldn't. They couldn't pursue it because he got shut down. So the minute you bring up what they call fringe science, which is only fringe because you don't investigate it,
because you don't understand it yet.
Right.
Yeah.
But
that's the paranormal. The paranormal, what we call the paranormal, because it's existing, because there's enough, not everybody that sees Bigfoot can be crazy. Not everybody that sees flying saucers can be crazy. But it's paranormal because we don't have the tools yet to make it,
to prove it,
to codify it and say, this is here.
Not only that, but there has to be scientific boundaries as well. I mean, think about some of the horrific damn experiments that people have done on other people, on animals, on different things. In the name of science, there has to be some form of a block of this is not okay at the same point. We can't just have everybody going out.
How can you say you can't do this experiment on a Bigfoot if we catch one when we've already done it on humans?
Right.
Some of the most horrible shit in the world has been done to us.
Yeah.
Oh, look at what was that, Group 5 or something? They were Japanese during World War II.
519 or 419.
Yeah, they experimented
did that. On thousands of people with everything. Every disease you could think of, temperatures. They wanted to see what the human body could take. And basically, they would run people until they died. With these experiments. And thousands
Joseph Mengele.
And you think as far as electroshock therapy,
and they just got caught.
It's all horrible shit that has been done to people throughout the years in the name of science.
Think of this. On a milder scale, not quite as horrible, but you know that a lot of the techniques we use to keep premature babies alive was actually developed by P.T. Barnum because preemies were a sideshow attraction.
Oh, absolutely.
And the longer you could keep one alive, the more money you could get, the more people would come see it. So you're looking,
No, definitely. There's a lot of advances that we made because of these horrible things that we did.
Usually during wartime.
But at the same point, there has to be a cap. And that's why all of these ethics and things exist now, is because there has to be a cap on what you're capable of.
Well, there's a cap, or there's...
On one hand, though,
they're selling the smell.
If you want to put a cap on something, you're saying you can't do that. Okay, look at someone like Werner von Braun.
Oh, absolutely.
He was developing rockets, but the way they were doing it, they were using slave labor, they were doing all kinds of nasty things, but he became head of NASA and supposedly got us to the moon, whether you believe it or not. But if they put a cap on him back in the 30s, we wouldn't be there.
Back through all the German experimentation and everything else that happened.
So who determines where the cap is?
Right.
Well, we have this international board that says there's no human cloning, or you
that's
can't
been
do
going on already.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know why the Chinese are so far ahead of the Americans on CRISPR technology? Because Harvard came up with it and were choked by regulations and couldn't run with it. China's like, screw you, we're going to do it. This looks like a pretty cool thing. Let's do it. So,
wasn't Harvard the one that was working on the COVID thing, and they said the U.S. said you can't do it, so they moved it over to Wuhan?
Well, that was the same thing with Washington State.
It was one of the major universities.
Washington State developed the first assay. Yeah.
Washington State developed the first test. and we're shut down by CDC.
Yeah.
But now we're doing millions of samples because, we need this. It seems like there's a flexibility to it in that when it's advantageous, when there's benefit or political, everything is so corrupt now that it's almost like we need some kind of reset.
Right, which is why everybody talks about all these secret government experiments or these secret whatever experiments that are happening here or there or wherever else, is because human beings in general do suck. And we do horrible crap to each other all the damn time in the name of science, in the name of whatever. And
the point is, people have figured out the government shouldn't be doing these experiments. That's why it's all gone over to private industry. Because you can't request records from a private company.
No.
Exactly.
They're doing whatever they're doing, and they're going to get away with it, and nobody knows.
Okay, well, like, take for instance, your average everyday person. Do they know what's actually going on at CERN? What's actually going on over here? What kind of experiments they're actually doing?
The average everyday American doesn't know what's going on.
They're waiting for their next, they don't know. All they're looking for is their damn next episode of the Kardashians or some other bull crap. We don't teach critical thinking in schools. We don't teach basic grammar in schools. I know a college graduate that can't spell. I mean, I'm sorry. It's disgusting. It really is.
Oh wait, no, that's not me. So, all right, it's been a great show tonight. We do have two. You folks, you have 4 days to get your art submitted.
3
days to get your art submitted. We have 2 entries right now. 2. Yeah, we only have 2 entries.
Well, that's both our listeners.
So, if you want to get your art entered, where do they submit their art? Cole?
Give me 1 second here.
All right,
here we go.
Caught Cole napping.
No, he's been...
Ladies and gentlemen, we here at S4 know that sometimes when dealing with the paranormal, what we experience cannot be properly put into words. So we are asking you, the public, to share with us your best paranormal artwork. Between August 1st and September 30th, we will be accepting your 2D artwork, which we will then be featuring on Facebook, Twitter, and on our webpage during the month of October. The hosts of S4 will then pick one to win an S4 swag bag valued at $75. All 2D mediums accepted must be 18 to enter. All artwork must be PG. No nudity, please. Entries should be submitted to s4radiowinner@gmail.com. That's s4radiowinner@gmail.com.
Excellent. Get your entries in. You got 3 days. And what were we talking about yesterday? Photos are included in that, correct?
Yeah, you can do a photo.
Yeah.
As long as,
it's got to be your photo.
Yeah.
We'll know. Trust me.
Oh, we'll find out.
We will find out.
Friend. So, yeah, make sure it's
Google
your own
image search.
It has to be your own photo. It has to be your own artwork. Friend.
Well, yeah. That should be without saying.
Well, if you turn in artwork that isn't yours, again, it will be on Facebook, Twitter, and our webpage, but not for the same reason.
Nope. So, next week, what are we talking about? We do have a guest that we're going to be approaching for the 2nd week of October, obviously the 3rd week of October. I want a Halloween theme for October. So, what are we talking about next week?
Is there any way we can get our research at the fort for a Halloween show?
No.
No.
I can't.
Oh, we're good. No. We've got, yeah. No.
Right.
Hey, there was a big fireball that came over the U.S. yesterday. People saw it from the West Coast all the way back to Kentucky.
For real?
This is the problem with the U.S. Everybody's doing drugs. That's called the sun, guys.
So, PBR, it can be a drawing of anything paranormal, whether it's alien, Bigfoot, spirit, just something creepy.
Drawing, painting, photography, any 2D art.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any format.
And we do also want to get Rosella see Roback on here.
Oh, yes, her book is coming out.
Yeah, she has. Joe, did you leave? He did.
Okay.
Should I call him back in, or?
No, we have like 4 minutes left.
Yeah, we have 4 minutes left.
All right, Joe. Well, we'll get you back on soon. I don't know what happened there. But yeah, we want to get Rosella back on here. Her book is coming out October 1st, so
she'll be on the first hour of tentatively next week.
Yeah,
I have to contact her. And then the last 2 hours, we will talk about October, Halloween. Is there a theme? Is there a tie-in to the paranormal with Halloween? Is what we will be discussing.
Probably will be this year. It's 2020.
So with that, folks, y'all have a good night. We're cutting out, and hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Everything science. And we will see you next week. Have a safe week, folks, and keep your eyes to the sky.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on S4, the official voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. You can contact S4 through our website at www.s-4radio.com or on Facebook. Make sure you give us a like on our page and join the Forest Moon Paranormal group. If you are interested in advertising, take a look at our packages and contact Cole or Eric at 1-360-999-2830. Again, thank you. And remember, keep your eyes to the sky.